What is poppin', everybody, and welcome to the Mixed Black Voices in Gaming Day 2, where we are celebrating amazing black game developers from all over the world. I'm your host, Justin Woodward, co-founder of The Mix, the media indie exchange and indie team in Terabang Entertainment. I'm also a proud advisor on the Humble Black Game Developer Fund, but that's enough about me. I want to introduce my co-host, Alfonso Hooker.
What's up, everybody? It's Alfonso Hooker. I'm representing Tech Perfect and GameHeads. GameHeads is a youth of color game development organization. So we teach youth of color game development skills and DevOps skills. And I'm just so happy to be here.
Yeah, shout out to GameHeads. We're going to have some folks on later in the show. A brief history about Black Voices in Gaming. We started this back in June of 2020 during the Guerrilla Collective, and when the protests and demonstrations were happening that united us from all around the world.
Wow.
Yeah, we're in Oakland. We're in Berkeley right now in the Bay Area, and there's a lot of activism out here, and it was pretty crazy. So during the Guerrilla Collective, we teamed up with Raw Fury, who helped to sponsor the first event. GameSpot, Twitch, IGN were some awesome folks who helped with the cause, and we continue that momentum this time with some other amazing sponsors. So we can't thank you enough. First off, one of the sponsors, which I'm a part of, like I said, and we'll be talking to Sithe later, is Humble Games with the Black Game Developer Fund. If you're a black game developer and you're looking for some prototype funding or possibly publishing, please follow the link below.
Hit him up.
Yeah, hit them up so you could be a part of that. And we also have some other amazing sponsors hopping in. Of course, Raw Fury. If it wasn't from Raw Fury's contribution from the first event, this wouldn't happen. PlayStation jumped in big time again. Yes. Humble Games, Kickstarter. We love you, and we are streaming on Razor's equipment. We have a amazing show coming up, but let's go to our first guest, Sean Alexander Allen, who will be showcasing Treachery in Beatdown City. Roll the trailer.
Yeah. They call me when ninja people attack the street. My president's black and y'all gon' give him back to me. I spend half the week training and doing tournaments. I spar with gangbangers with Yankee shurikens. It's too late now if you out of chances, bro. Your hands is low, gotta hail an ambulance to go. This ain't no slap boxing, we don't pretend to scuffle. I make the whole rule book and still will bend a couple. I fight like big companies over business struggles, or anime heroes doing they friends in trouble. It ain't gotta be noble, I fight for stupid reasons. I find a reason to fight against any human breathing. If I'm on your block, you need to tell a doctor. I'm hella big and I'm about to punch a helicopter. I'm super woke so my eyes open, don't provoke when I'm side scrolling. Street sweeper, peacekeeper, 2 cellulars, 3 beepers. You dignified with a simple mind, and that cash got you all hypnotized. Laptop and no InDesign so they don't watch what they gentrify. Yeah. Beat down city, we gon' whoop your ass. Beat down city, we gon' whoop your ass. Beat down city, we gon' whoop your ass. Beat down city, we gon' whoop your ass.
Yo, the Beatdown City, that song is slapping, the beat is banging, the lyrics are super dope. It's hilarious. We got Sean on the line, and we're gonna actually play. Alfonso's gonna be driving for most of the time, and we're gonna play through the game. What is up, Sean? How is it going?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, dude. Like, we were talking about this before, like, everything is on point culturally with the game, obviously, but, like, how did you get started? Let's go a little bit back into your history.
I mean, it's it's funny. I remember going, like, I wanted to do comics as a kid, actually, and, like, I really loved comics. I had, like, How to Draw Marvel Comics, or How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, and made a ton of comics, and never really actually owned video games, but you could, you know, get comics, and I don't know, something kind of flipped in me. I even made a comic that was set in a fictional video game world where all the characters were drawn, like, I drew everybody in, like, jagged, like, pixel art style, but by hand with pen and marker. And then, you know, just, one day it got into my head, because I kept getting discouraged for doing all the things I wanted to do, like writing, music, all these various things that were just kept away from me. And then one day I was like, I'm going to make video games. And I didn't let a single person discourage me from that, no matter what. It was like the last thing that I was like, no, we're doing this. And I was actually talking about recently that I was like a moderator on IGN's message boards around 2000 to 2007.
Wow, I
which
did
is kinda
not
like-
know that. That's dope.
Yeah. I also sort of used to troll on those boards too, simultaneously, which I don't know how that worked.
So
And
what
I went
was
to
your-
my first E3. I was just saying I went to my first E3 when I was in 2003 actually.
Wow. Were you working at a like a GameStop or something when you went to E3 for the first time?
Yeah, that because like you used to be able to go if you were an EB Games employee or GameStop
Yeah.
employee. I was EB Games. Like I used to hang out at my EB Games, wanting to get a job there in 2000, and they just didn't. It was hard to get a job at these stores, especially if you were in school like I was. And then I was just talking about this with my wife. I actually got my EB Games job the day that Spice City came out.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
And yeah, and also got another job the day that same week, which meant now I'm doing double work while going to school full time. And I was just like, I've been hurting. I hadn't had a steady job in years. I'd been trying to get it, but no one wanted to hire a student. And my friend, who was the assistant manager of the store, he got promoted to manager. The manager got moved to another store, and the manager was actually this like racist ass Italian dude who just didn't want to hire any more black people.
That's
So when
crazy.
he left,
So how did
his
you
assistant
get
manager brought me
into your first gig? Did you go to school for game design or art and design?
I went to school. Yeah, I went to school for graphic design, and then kind of hated my department, and so I went to. So then I switched to computer art,
Oh,
which was
okay.
like I was really into like 3D and stuff like that, and then that was so time intensive, especially since I had a full-time job, that I ended up doing more 2D animation, and did 2D animation mixed with 3D for my thesis. And then after I graduated, a few months afterwards, I applied to a bunch of jobs that were all drying up, and eventually Rockstar posted a game capture position, which I had never known existed, to make trailers.
What is game
and-
capture? What do you do when you're game capturing?
It's for that job, it's complicated because, like, you know, a 3D game, you know, when you see trailers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see like someone like jump off a roof with an explosion happening behind them. That could be fully animated, like a company like Blur, and those trailers cost like $1 million a pop, or at least to make. Or you could have a fully gameplay trailer where there's a person playing the game, running the person off and jumping off the thing, and then there's another person filming it as it goes down. So that's kind of a combination of those two. And as I did it more and more, I started doing whole trailers by myself.
Oh wow!
Where I'd be holding two controllers. I'd like hold forward, you'd pause the game, hold forward, play the game at like 25% speed, and then put a rubber band around the controller to make the person keep running forward, and then like press a button like this and take the camera and like just like move the camera like that as the person's falling off the roof or something.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So when you so you worked at Rockstar for a little bit, and then while you were at Rockstar, is that when you started Treachery?
In a sense, it was an idea. Because when I was at Rockstar, I saw stuff like Super Meat Boy come out, and I was just like, oh, like indie games are a thing. And it's funny because I had a friend who was really into Cave Story, and I didn't get into Cave Story then, but when I saw Super Meat Boy on Xbox Live, I was like, oh, like, and Braid, and I was like, oh, these games can come out and you can do stuff. So I kind of started talking to like my HR, and I was like, what if I wanted to make like a mobile game? And he could actually never answer my question. So I just kind of started coming up with an idea of story and a world and character designs that I didn't know were going to go anywhere. And then in 2012, the same year that I kind of wanted to work on the game more, and there was a bit of a thing that happened, and there was a split with Rockstar, and I went full-time to work on the game for a bit.
Yeah, I remember playing the game, early on because we met the first time at EVO 2012, or was it 2013 when we met, when we were working on Super Combo Man, and I just saw the game, and I fell in love with it just because it's a mashup of, a brawler, and it has these RPG elements. Can you talk about like your influences for making this game?
Yeah, like I kind of always tell people, part of that indie scene thing going on was like Castle Crashers was a big game, but then we also saw like the rebirth. We saw Double Dragon, the arcade game, which I had never played before. I'd only played the Nintendo version, and Turtles, the arcade game, which I'd also never played before. I'd only played the Nintendo version. But like those games were coming back, and I was not a fan of Castle Crashers. I didn't like how Castle Crashers was very character action focused. Like it was like doing all of the like juggling and everything from like a Devil May Cry, and like they had like spells you could cast to launch people in the air and knock them in the air. And I like down and dirty punching people in the face in the streets, right? Like so, yeah. Like and also like I kind of had seen how like like urban games, like games set in a city, just kind of disappeared from the landscape, and so I was like, I want to make the best beat 'em up ever.
That's
and we started working in Game Maker. Like I actually was the first person to lay down code in the game in Game Maker. Like I had Brad in the game, and I made him move up, down, and left and right, and the programmer Nico hadn't 100% been taking it seriously. Like we had been talking about working on the game, but then it was like, oh, if I don't start working on it, Sean's going to leave me behind. So then we started like kind of like weekly working on it, and then like we hit a point where we were not liking what was going on, and I was kind of freaking out, and I was and I literally had a shower moment where I went took a shower that night. I was very sad, and I was like, let's make it turn-based. Like I was like, because I like had this confluence of Mario RPG. I'm like, I like RPGs. I like Mario RPG. I like Fallout Spats. I like Hybrid Heaven, which only a small handful of people know about, and which is basically like a fighting game RPG. They're very different than this. And so then that's when we went to work and started figuring that out. And it was a lot of work, but it was so much more interesting than what we were trying to do that I was just like, yeah, let's do that. And we got our first build that was like a playable that people could see like the real ideas. And it was, I think it was like Brad or Lisa versus 3 Johns. And it was like the idea of whether or not you could make this game feel like a good fighting game. And that was when we were like, oh yeah, we got this, so let's keep going.
So what were some of the challenges that you had as an indie developer, as a black indie developer, as you were going through the process? Was it like, was the development 5 years, or like what was the development period, and what were some of the challenges you had as a black developer?
I mean, 2012 is when I left Rockstar, and this game came out last year.
Yeah.
So that's 8 years plus R&D essentially. I'd say it was kind of like a decade in the making. But I mean, like I didn't know how to make, like, it's weird. Like I worked at Rockstar. I had worked on, like, I've been able to basically see and play and touch games that were nowhere near, like, that were very early. Like, I got to, like, touch Grand Theft Auto 5, like, where if you walked 2 steps in any direction, you'd fall off the face of the map. Like, so I got to see games, like, at a very early state, but I didn't know, like, what it was like to make a game when there was literally nothing on screen, right? So, and my programmer also, we were both very new to it, and I didn't have good project management skills. I thought I did. I don't know, like, I thought I'd worked in QA for a bit. I thought I knew it, didn't. So it was like a lot of, like, having to learn how to be a developer was a major thing. Also, like, finding money for this idea that I'm working on was very difficult. Like, I thankfully, you know, was a part of the PlayStation Mobile bit, which was like, you know, Shane Benthausen like basically helped me work on this, because I wouldn't have been able to work on it without some money. So that's key thing. But, like, PlayStation Mobile development was fraught with technical issues just because the SDK was terrible. Basically any PlayStation Mobile dev would tell you that. And you know, just I've pitched to 1 million people to try to help get funding, and, you know, I had to go back to full-time work, and just, you know, really had to, like, I don't know, like anything I had, I poured right back into this game. And, you know, there's been some benefits, like, you know, the industry came out with the Kickstarter and backed the game, and, you know, that was amazing.
And so
but
you had,
at the same
like,
time, we asked for way too little money.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel that. And so you basically had to learn how to become more of a producer. You had to get your entrepreneurship up and, like, that type of thing. How did you, like, maneuver through these things? Did you have mentors or folks to help you out through the? Because it's a ridiculous process if you don't have folks to work with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, with Kickstarter, I really say that the industry is why this game. It's like, you know, I kind of started going to my first E3 was 2003. And then I didn't go back until I was at Rockstar. And when I was at Rockstar, I basically was able to. I went to E3, and you know, I had a little bit more, you know, confidence, you know, and I got to talk to people, but I think I was real easy to deal with, and I made a lot of friends, and was very nice to a lot of people very nice back, and that led to. When I wanted to go do my own thing, I remember this guy, Seth Skeisel, who used to be the video games writer at New York Times. I met him at a Halo party that I wouldn't have been able to get into without being a Rockstar person, because it was a weird thing of handing in a Rockstar business card and then letting me in because of that. Like, it was strange, because those, like, Microsoft parties were very exclusive, and I had no invites to anything. And I was in there, and Seth was just talking to me, and I was, like, talking to him about how I wanted to go indie and do that, and he was just like, yeah, man, that sounds great. And Seth's also a black dude writing about games, so that was really cool to meet him. And then we were at this party, and he introduced me to, like, Phil Harrison and, like, all these other people in the games industry that were just there because it was a very exclusive party. Wow. And he was just like, yo, this is Sean, former Rockstar, like, he's a Rockstar right now. Yeah. He wants to go be an indie, blah, blah, blah. And those guys all just being like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, yeah, you should totally do that. And, you know, just having that bit of like encouragement, even if they barely know who I am, and someone just bigging me up already in front of people was, like, pretty nice to be like, oh yeah, I should do that. Also, I was at a party where I met a bunch of, like, my heroes. Like, I met, like, Nathan Vella who was one of the founders of CapE, and my friend Barut, who was he was, like, the lead engineer on Skulls of the Shogun before it had a name, like, you know, early indie title.
Yeah.
Met Suda51 and a bunch of people at this party, and so I got to see what being an indie developer was like also. So it was like, and then, so those were people I could also email and ask for help and advice, and it just kept growing from there. And yeah, I mean, like, just having people to keep to talk to, like when I was like just failing or feeling like a failure and just saying like I feel like a failure, like what's up, and they're like, nah man, don't worry about it. Like, you know, when you got to push your game back 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
and having people say you got to do what's best for you, Sean, like that was always super helpful.
It's very, yeah, it feels like very serendipitous in that way. And you're also one of the co-founders of Game Devs of Color Expo. Like, can you talk about how that kind of came about while you're developing the game?
Yeah, so I am not a co-founder, I'm a co-organizer.
Oh, okay.
I'd say I sort of helped found it in the sense that one day I just woke up in 2012. That was part of my 2012 awakening, was like, I just had this flip in my brain where I was like, I always say it was because I started listening to Dead Prez and Saul Williams, and their music's very revolutionary. And I started looking around and being like, there's no black people in the games industry. And so then like I started like really, and then I wrote a big talk about it for IndieCade of 2013, which had me diving into like, you know, the history of hip hop and tech and just getting into all these stats and looking at all this stuff. And that got me, I was like this like hyper radicalized person who was just like really fighting for this. And so I started just trying to find all the black folks that were in the games industry and go talk to them and figure out like what we could do to go forward. And I found Kat on Twitter because she was friends with a mutual friend, and then she was teaching Kat Small. She is the founder with Chris Algu. They have their company Brooklyn Gamery. And I found Kat, and I went to a UX talk she was giving just so I could meet her in person. And this is what I do, is I find black folks in the industry and I start talking to them about like, how can we make the industry better? How, you know, just whispering like, hey, you know, there's no black folks, blah, blah. And based on those conversations, a lot of times people like will just become friends and tied together forever. Like that's what happened with me and you at Evo, right? We just started talking about, you know, there's no black people here. So, and then Kat just, the talking from there, because Kat is an amazing organizer. She helped found Code Liberation, which was a group for teaching women how to code. And so she's just like this amazing person for organization. And so she worked with Chris to found Game Devs of Color Expo as like this, just kind of this idea of like, is there a market for this? And it was at Microsoft in Times Square. They gave up some free space for a lot of game events, and it was pretty big. It was great. And then she reached out to me and some other folks the next year and said, I want to do more. I need help. And I had gone to the Schomburg Center for the Black Comic Book Festival and saw, and a bunch of other events, and saw how dope this like spot in Harlem was, like a very pro-black space. And I said, we need to move the event there. So I did stuff for the event. Like I made some big moves for it because I always say I'm kind of like the, you know, like Malcolm X or Stokely Carmichael type of the games industry, and that like, I'm just like, let's change everything right now as much as possible.
Yeah.
So
it's super dope what you like, what has come up with the Game Devs of Color Expo. Can you tell us about like, where you're going with New Challenger? And you have Treachery in Beatdown City. It has like a diverse cast. You're an activist. You're doing all this cool stuff. What's next for New Challenger?
I mean, the next big thing is we're supporting this game right now. That's like the only real thing I can talk about. I got other things in the works, but you know, until things get
NDA
more
situation.
Yeah, until things just get more, you know, I always talk about how I come from like I grew up in poverty, so for me, until something is happening, it's not happening in a lot of ways. I can't really 100% believe it. It's like you can't believe there's money coming until it's in your pocket.
Yeah. So what's next for Treachery? Do you have an update coming or anything?
Yeah, we're gonna have there's this big story. Well, right now we have a localization patch that we're actually gonna be putting into CERT very soon that has a bunch of languages to get it out to a more global scale. It's going to come out in Europe and Australia, and we're also working with a Japanese publisher for that. And then we have this massive patch, which is going to be like the size of the game as it is right now for story-wise and more enemies and content and stuff. And it's probably not the wisest thing to do, but it's going to be like free for everybody who has the game.
That's dope. So where can we find the game and follow you?
Yeah, you can find the game. There's beatdown_city on Twitter. A new challenger with a U, NU challenger on Twitter, and there's just beatdowncity.com.
Yo, I appreciate you. I mean, we stay up late nights just talking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, all your activism, like, definitely rubbed off on me. Like, you're a cohort in my eyes. Man, I love you, everything you do. Thank you for jumping on the show. We appreciate it.
Love the game, brother. I play it all
Yeah.
the time at home, so it's
Dope,
amazing.
Good to see you again, Alfonso.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sean.
Alfonso knows a little bit about what the future is.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. All right.
It's on the DL.
Thanks, Sean.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
bro.
you.
Yeah, I want to.
Take care.
That's Treachery in Beatdown City.
Yes.
The game is really dope. The combination of RPG elements and a beat 'em up is really cool. I want to shout out Steam actually and Valve because they hooked us up with a page. All the games that are showcased today, or a majority of them, you can wish list them. You can either purchase them or wish list them, and just show these developers love because it
right.
definitely helps. And that's what we're trying to do: support Black game developers, and that is what Steam is doing today. Next up, we have another amazing game. This developer is actually in the Humble Black Game Developer Fund as well. And we're going to go to Adam Kareem with Protodroid Delta next. And this is Protodroid Delta. Let's roll the trailer.
I am Delta, a protodroid.
So you're another protodroid? Like me? ¡Qué emocionante! I always assumed I was the only one.
You cannot allow the worthless lives of a few gang leaders to jeopardize the safety of thousands of civilians.
Life and death isn't yours to decide. We will find another way. In order to win, I must grow stronger.
Ay, mija, your blade is looking weak. Come, vamos. I will teach you my techniques. She will be the change.
And that is the action platformer Protodroid Delta. On the line, we have Adam Kareem. What is up, Adam? How's it going?
What's going on?
It's great. Yo, it's great seeing you again, man. You're like one of the most enthusiastic people in general that I've ever met.
I'm nuts, man. I don't know what it is. I just love people. I love making games, which is like a hobby of mine. I don't know. I feel like it's easier for me to be hype because I just like generally speaking. So yeah, I'm hyped now. It'll be harder for me to tone it down than it is. So I just go the easy route.
Anytime I'm like down in the dumps, I'm like, and I see you like post in the Discord channel, so I'm like, oh my God, Adam's back. Oh my God. You like making me reinvigorated while I'm like grinding, because yesterday was, we had a long stream yesterday. I was like, oh my God,
Right.
let me figure this out. When we're jumping on, I'm gonna be on here with Adam, but we're gonna play Protodroid Delta now. I'm
jumping
super
right
hyped.
in. I'm jumping
We
right
just
in.
jump right in.
Go
Tell
for
us
it,
about.
man.
Go
for
ahead.
it. Yeah, I was go for it.
Yeah. Tell us about the game. I mean, it's been an interesting journey.
I am Delta.
Yeah, so it started off as just a desire to see a good 3D Mega Man, and because I always loved Mega Man X is my favorite game ever, and I always thought it
let's
kind of
get
sucked.
Just 1 second. Let's get you on the stream real quick.
Okay, sure.
There we go.
Yeah. So I always thought it was kind of lame that I was always inspired by the idea of making a 3D Mega Man that played really well because that hasn't been done. There's 30 2D games, And then like other franchises which made a good jump, like Mario, Zelda, Metroid, I was like, yo, this should be a good 3D platformer Mega Man. So that was like the original inspiration, and I just kind of took it from there, man.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see the inspiration. And you did some other prototypes, which I think that's fascinating. A lot of developers starting off was like, how do I start off? And like you did it the perfect way. Can you explain some of that?
Yeah, dude, that's actually where it started. It actually didn't start with Mega Man, my game dev journey. I started out wanting to make a Sonic fan game, like a 3D Sonic game that played really well. And so I was like, yeah, man, like it'd be great if Sonic could like have a 3D game. And then that kind of like started the bug, was that like this belief that I could somehow create a good 3D Sonic. So I entered my first fan game into Sage, the Sonic Amateur Game Expo, and it did okay. It was called Sonic Explorers. And then from there, I was like, well, let me go to like the next franchise that I've loved so much. Let me do Mega Man. And so this game actually started as a Mega Man X 3D platformer prototype called like Mega Man X and Zero training missions, where you can either play as X or you can play as Zero. And then at some point I was like, you know what? Like I'm spending hours making this game every night after work and hanging out. That like I should like make it something unique and make it its own. And so that's when the idea for like turning it into Protodroid came to life.
Yeah, and what was your initial day job while you were working on these really cool prototypes?
Yeah, man. When I started, I used to work at Whirlpool designing like home appliances. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. I still work full time. And so I do games as a side, as a hobby. So that's kind of like the way I've been managing things. Actually, real quick thing about the game. So Alfonso, it's like an auto lock mechanic. Whenever you point the camera in the general direction of an enemy, it will lock onto it. So you can shoot them, and it'll automatically shoot at the target. Cool. The other thing I want to tell you is if you press and hold the right trigger when she's on the ground, she'll do a dash. There you go. And if you combine that with a jump, you can get like really crazy distances because like anyone who's played Mega Man X, that's like the core mechanic. It's like dash jumping and dashing a lot. So I really put a lot of effort in trying to like retain the feel of that because that's really important for like a Mega Man X game.
Yeah, let's just go into the mechanics. Let's just talk about the game in general.
Yeah, dude. So like for me, the biggest challenge is like how do you make a 3D Mega Man that doesn't become like a third-person shooter? Because it's a very different skill set from like game design wise for someone who's used to just like pressing buttons versus managing two sticks, right? And so it's like I didn't want to alienate folks who were, like myself, like who were more into the platforming elements of it. And that's what's so genius about the Mega Man games is that like you just have to jump and shoot. Those are the only commands, really. Mm-hmm. So I was like, how can I like capture that? How can I like jump and shoot in a 3D environment? And that's where the soft lock-on came on, where like originally I had the camera kind of like focus on the target, but it became disorienting for a player to like gauge your jumps when the camera is also moving the entire time. So I was like, let me instead let the camera be alone and just have like through coding like be smart about who you're locked on, so the players always keep their spatial awareness so they can jump and shoot at the same time.
You could definitely see that reflected in the gameplay for sure. It feels super solid. I know you were really paying attention to those mechanics.
Sorry, Fonzo.
Got smashed up, and he was practicing last night too, for sure. He's like, "Yo, let me get that game. Like, send me a link to the game because I need to practice and not look like an ass while I'm playing." But he's doing
exactly what I said.
He's doing really well though so far.
He's doing well.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Alfonso, one thing you can do is if you press and hold the shoot button, you can store a charge shot, and those destroy shields immediately. Okay. And so when you deal with those turrets, the technique is either you rush up and engage them and take them out with like your melee attack, or you break, because the melee breaks shields, or you break their shield from the distance with their charge shot, and then they become kind of exposed. So that's what I'm trying to do game design wise, is like you have to give players a reason to use each tool, you know what I'm saying? And I'm taking a lot of cues from like Doom Eternal, how they're really smart about each weapon is a tool, and every encounter with an enemy is more like solving a problem than it is about just like your ability to shoot really fast.
Yeah, that's dope. You have like a super diverse cast of characters, and that was very apparent in your Kickstarter. Can you kind of dive into that?
Yeah, man. So it's like, when I had the opportunity to like make a game and create a world, I kind of wanted to make something that reflects more the world that I grew up in. Because like, what you see a lot in gaming is that like, take the Mega Man franchise for example, there's over like 30 games, and all the characters are of the same skin tone for the most part. And then additionally, they're majority guys. You know what I'm saying? It's like in over 30 games, you can count on one hand the number of female characters who are almost always in some sort of support role, not necessarily heroes or really significant. And then you have like all the heroes are the same skin tone. And I get that in a sense that like people tend to create things that they can see themselves in. You know, they create things in their own image. So when games are made mostly by like Japanese developers or like the same sort of folks in like in the US, you know, like white folks or whatnot, you know, they'll create characters that reflect their upbringing. So I was like, well, I got a chance to do the same for me. You know, like I can create characters that look like the people I grew up in. So there's like I think there's a total of 5 black characters in the cast. There's 3 Latino characters. I really wanted to be like a celebration of like the true diversity of gamers as a whole. You know, it's like it's great to have more games that look more like the people that play them. One thing I joke about a lot is that like Super Smash Bros. Right has like Super Smash Ultimate has like over 75 characters on the roster, and there's like more furries and animals than there are like black or brown characters. And it's in a lot of ways like a reflection of like over 30 years of like gaming icons and gaming history, and in 30 years, you know, we got more furries and than like black folks. And if they are, they're either bad guys like Ganondorf, or they're like just an alternative skin. So I was like, yo, I can make a game. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, or mad ambiguous, like
mad ambiguous,
like Bionic Commando, the new Bionic Commando, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And so it's like, you know, I want to create something that like players like myself growing up can like see themselves in, because there currently aren't a lot of options like that. And so things are getting better. You know, we got things like Horizon Zero Dawn, the female lead, Control, like strong female lead. And you've got like more diversity in the cast of like other games. But you know, we're moving along, but we're not quite there. And so that's why I made it a point for my game.
Yeah, I really dig that you added that to the game for sure, your personality, because I wanted to see that too as a kid, and even now, like, where am I represented in this besides like the create your own character type scenario?
Right. Right.
So you did a Kickstarter, and can you just talk a little bit about like how you started development and kind of moved through development, and then you're also part of the Humble Black Game Developer Fund.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that experience?
So I guess I'll start with the Kickstarter, because not a lot of people have done a Kickstarter. They're super hard. They are super hard, especially if you do it alone. I pretty much managed my Kickstarter on my own at first. Eventually, I hired help for like marketing and to run ads, which has been significant and tremendous. But the reason I ran the Kickstarter is because, like, you know, I do games as a hobby, and I felt kind of like I really wanted to see, number one, is there like a market for a game like this? But number two, I wanted to see if there's a way I can help to sort of like offset the expenses, since I'm paying for all these things myself. You know, I kind of felt guilty, like, you know, everyone has a hobby, you know, but like I felt kind of bad spending like so much on like personal hobby for my family and whatnot. So I thought a Kickstarter might be a good way to kind of like, you know, bridge that gap. And it was super difficult, but in the end, it was really awesome, because like it showed me that the people really like a game like this, and people really like this idea, because I was like, let me get an early read about like the viability of this. You know, like maybe maybe it's not that interesting to people, but instead the response is really strong. And then, sorry, what was the follow-up question?
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, the Kickstarter, it's like you have this journey, right? Prototyping, then you build Protodroid, then you do Kickstarter, and now you're a part of the Humble Black Game Developer Fund. Like, what has been your experience with that program?
Man, Humble's been fantastic. These folks have made like taken such a large load off my shoulders, because like with the Kickstarter, like it was hopeful, but the goal was just offset the expenses as best I could, but it didn't really cover the full game's budget. At least as I projected it out. So getting the support from Humble's been amazing, because now it's like enables me to go get higher quality talent, higher quality 3D artists, higher quality animators. Because I'm working primarily with myself, that's doing pretty much all the coding and the game design and like the world building and such. But I'm leveraging a lot like 3D artists to help with the design. My main 2D illustrator who does all the helps with the character design. And without them, like this stuff doesn't happen, you know. So like and so the ability to like not like to be able to get good talent is really, really helpful. Really, really helpful.
So when you were starting, you were like building the game, you're building the levels yourself, kind of like gray box style.
Right.
Then you needed to figure out how to build it out and get a team jumping aboard. Can you describe a little bit about that process? Because I think developers who are people who want to be developers kind of don't understand that process, and it would be interesting.
Yeah, dude. The most I can say is you gotta make a prototype of something. You know what I'm saying? Because what happens is, in making Protodroid or making like my fan games, I learned what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and I learned like what I like doing and what I don't like doing. And then I was able to be more focused about like what is the specific help that I need to hire and like what things do I want to focus on. So case in point, I really love game design. I love programming mechanics, programming AI, the stuff that makes a game playable. But I found from making my fan games, my strengths in the art department were really weak, and it was taking me a ton of time to just like get the lighting right for a level, or set the right assets, or just make a level look believable. So by making those quick fan games, I got to learn that about myself, and it became easier to sort of build a team that way. Plus, like, when you have something playable, you know what I'm saying, you have a lot more, I'll call it like cred. Like, people know that like, okay, this guy doesn't just have ideas, he can deliver and brings a lot to the table, him or herself. And so that's been like an important part of the journey. Oh, sweet, you got him when the shield was down. That was nice, Alfonso. That was nice. Yeah, I'm just like, to the point of game design, there's very little of it in this part of the game right now. This was like mostly like I created it. It's called like a zoo. I got this idea from Forrest Dowling, who's like a really good developer over at the Molasses Flood. He was a level designer for BioShock Infinite, and now he runs his own game studio. And he was like, you got to make a zoo, which is like that's like your small playable space, so you can quickly like get a sense of the game feel and things like that. So that's what this demo area started out as. It's just like a bunch of like random platforming challenges without much thought of like difficulty scaling or relative placement. I was just like, okay, how does this feel when you got a bunch of stuff in front of you? So the difficulty spikes are all over the place.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
What advice would you give inspiring young game developers who are trying to get into the game, or not even young, just like inspiring game developers?
Let me see. Advice I would give. I would say number one, make a game as quick as you can. I know some people get really excited about making an engine or trying to make like this big like space opera, like it has all their ideas. You don't want to make your first project your most beloved one. Right? Your first project has to be something you're just learning from and testing from, because like you're gonna make a ton of mistakes, and you don't want that to kind of be attached to the thing that you care most about. And so that's why for me, like, it was fun to start with fan games, because like I can like take those learnings and put them in. The other thing too is really make leverage of like all the game developing tools. Like Unreal is free, and the Blueprint system is incredible. Like I'm not I don't know C++ myself, you know, like I just, you know, but through the Blueprint system, I'm able to like to create whole games without ever writing a single line of code, and so it's been like really, really awesome. And so I think being able to basically remove the barriers. Oh, rotate the camera around. Oh, there you go. So being able to remove the barriers to getting your game made is the best advice, so that you can start, you know, get a feel for like, what am I good at? What kind of games do I like to make? And how should I move forward?
I'm just checking it out a little bit.
Yeah, man, yeah. The really big trick, Alfonso, if you can work the timing, is like the dash jump. So it's like right trigger then A, right trigger then A, and you become like this like space ninja. Yeah, there you go. She goes kind of nuts, man.
What other mechanics you have in the game, or do you have planned that you can share?
Huh, funny you should say that. I guess I shouldn't do this on the stream, but like, are you guys by a computer? Yeah. Of course you are. You're playing on the game. Okay, wait for a second. Destroy this enemy and I'll tell you the little secret. Okay, someone hit left control 3 times in a row.
No, so we have someone else who's handling that. That may not work. But you
do it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, you've now unlocked literally everything. So she has a double jump, so if you jump again in the air, you gotta take care of that guy. There'll be a double jump. You can perform the dash in the air, so if you jump and then press dash, so perform that in the air. There you go. And you can get like really crazy distances with that. She also has different weapons, so press Y on the gamepad, the top button I think it is. Now hold the shoot button. And there's a machine gun. Oh, you shot the rocket launcher at close range. It's gonna mess you up. But it tells you which weapon you have equipped at the bottom. So the shotgun, so you can fire that. It basically gives a wide spread when you fire it. The idea, I think I want to make that like an effect where it will disable enemies, so that it becomes more of a strategic thing and less of like a damage spread. Because she has damage spreading options. Javelin is the most powerful shot in the game. It should cut through shields and it travels a big distance. It's like the one, but it takes up your meter. So if you see, all weapons share the same meter, because I really want to focus on like strategic decisions, like quick strategic decisions about what weapon am I going to use, what advantages do I get from this weapon, while avoiding hazards and avoiding lasers and avoiding people shooting at you. It's like Mega Man, you know, you have to always be thinking on your feet playing Mega Man.
Yeah.
The other thing she has are more blade attacks. So if you go to a flat, like get past this hazard and you can kind of see them more easily. Because there's different moves you can do with her blade. Oh,
I can get past
you
it.
just gotta jump past. Okay, so hold the left trigger. Oh, you already have it unlocked, the dash unlocked. So hold the left trigger, and then you'll see the button mapping for the different blade specials she has. So if you press like A, she'll do her vertical one, which is ideal for taking out enemies who are above you in a single shot.
Oh, that's
and then
tight.
if you press like square, it performs like a wave that she'll shoot out. And it also is like the single strongest like blade strike. So if anyone is directly in front of you, kills them, knocks them out. Oh, that's the dash. That one is for closing great distances very quickly. And then that's the spin. It's kind of inspired by like Link's spin attack on Legend of Zelda. Now that one, yeah, I have to work on that special effect so it looks more powerful. But that's the strongest attack in the game currently. So yeah, this is
Well, thanks for
those things you
sharing
can
that.
unlock. Yeah.
It's cool to see that, like the process behind, you know, balancing and adding mechanics, and I think that's really important. It's cool to see how the sausage is made sometimes, you know, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, man. And you know, some of these things subject to change. It's still early in development, but that's generally what I want to go with the attacks. And there's little secrets too. Like for example, those guys who float, you can one-shot them if you jump and slash, because a jump and slash is slightly stronger than like the first two hits of the blade combo. So it encourages players to kind of discover these hidden mechanics. I took a lot of cues from like Smash Bros. How it's like every attack has like damage data. This does 5%, but the neutral area does like 11%. So if you jump and hit this blade, it'll take them out in one shot. Little small guys, because it does a little more damage. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know if you can tell, I'm really into this game.
Yeah, that's tight. So tell us where you can find the game. Where's it going to be released? Do you have any dates? I know that it may be TBA.
It'll be released on Steam and Nintendo Switch. That's what I'm targeting. So PC and Switch. Right now it's listed on Steam. You can wishlist it on Steam now. Protodroid Delta. You can follow me on the in-games development at Protodroid Delta on Twitter. And then you can check the Kickstarter page. That's where I post like monthly updates about development, and I basically keep like a monthly devlog.
This guy's still playing.
It's just it's I'm glad he's enjoying it, man. That's something that matters the most.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just like really wanted to like emphasize like having a diverse cast and giving players who can see folks they can see themselves in. So like one of the other Protodroids, her name is Anne Marie Dorado, and she's Latina. And she's like Delta's mentor. So all those blade attacks I talked about, you actually have to find her hidden throughout different stages, and then she teaches a different mechanic.
Nice.
While also talking more about her history, because like she's they kind of have their ethos is kind of at odds. Like Delta is a Protodroid who believes in bringing bad guys to justice through like the law, whereas Emery Dorado is of kind of like the Thanos idea, like the lives of the many outweigh the lives of the few. And so if it means we have to take some people out to bring peace, I'm willing to pay that price. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of like depth in their story and the conflicting kind of views. But they're both heroes. You know, just because Android is more violent doesn't mean she's a bad guy, because they're both trying to achieve peace. It's just there's a conflict in their means and their methods. And the cast is majority female. You know what I'm saying? It's like I think it's like the ratio is like 6-4. A lot of the main story leads are female leads. I just really wanted to do a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody can. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Kareem. We appreciate it.
Yes.
The game is
Wish
looking
list
dope.
the game.
Yeah. Wish list it. It's on the Steam page. We'll talk to you later for sure.
Thanks,
that
man.
was Adam Kareem with Protodroid Delta.
I like the game, man.
You were killing it.
I love that game. I'm all about that right now.
Yeah, it's what do you dig about it?
Oh, I just love the game mechanics. It's like it flows really well. It's easy to play to get the hang of it. Obviously, I still need to work on my jumps, but
Yeah.
I'll get there. I'll be there.
It's solid. The mechanics are solid. I'm a big fan of Mega Man and such. So yeah, go ahead and wishlist that. Shout out to Steam, for working with us on the wishlist page. You can check it out at MediaIndieExchange.com. Show those brothers love.
Yes.
Wishlist them, purchase games. But up next, we have an interview with the OG.
Raymond Graham.
No,
not Raymond.
We got Tony Barnes.
Oh, Tony Barnes.
We got
Okay, that's another OG.
Yeah, we got a lot of OGs on here. We got Tony Barnes coming up, and he's going to be showing Run, Die, Run Again.
All right.
Let's go to this. Let's go to the trailer. Run, Die, Run Again. The initial trailer for that, and we got Tony Barnes on the line. What's up, man?
Oh, hey.
What's going
How's it
on?
going, Jeff?
Good. It's great to have you back. We had you on the very first Black Voices in Gaming, and you're back, and you've been busting out a bunch of stuff. You've been working on Run, Die, Run Again and a few other prototypes. How has everything been going with development?
Hectic. Like you said, man, I got basically like 2.5 games on the go, and there was just one of me.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're doing 100% of this all on your own?
Pretty much. I mean, I've started to enlist the help of my son. One of my sons. I have two sets of twins, and one of the older ones who also does music. He was like, yeah, we're kind of getting ahead, but in Run, Die, Run Again, there's like, there's like kind of it's like a race game, right? So like in race games, you have music stations and all that. And so my son makes different kind of music than I do, but he still makes some cool music. This B-roll does not have music, because I thought we were just going to yak over it. But anyway, so he was going to be making some music for me and all this stuff, but he's been messing around with Unity, which this is, for about a year or so now. And so he's kind of helping me out as the game grows and becomes more refined away from the prototype that I started with.
Nice.
But yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, you've been in the business for over 30 years. One thing that I like, which I thought was dope and hilarious at the same time, is you did 28 days of Tony Barnes, which was magnificent. Every day of February, Black History Month, is Tony Barnes Day, and you you had a game a day, and those were not whack titles. Like, those were some dope titles. Can you kind of shed light on a little bit on your history for folks who don't know about it?
Okay, yeah. So Tony Barnes has been doing it. Actually, this will be the 36th year professionally.
Wow.
I've been making games.
Wow.
And so I started in I started in '85 professionally, but before that, I was in 6th grade, which was when the hell was that? Anyway,
A long time ago.
Yeah.
and so. They put computers in schools and Apple IIs actually, and nobody really knew what to do with them. And outside of playing Oregon Trail and shit, or stuff. So I said, yeah, I know how these things work, but I didn't really know how it worked. But I learned really quickly because it was faster and easier to animate things on the screen than it was what I was doing, which was doing like straight up pencil, like old school 2D animation, and then I was doing like a lot of. I wanted to grow up to be an animator and sort of make movies like Ray Harryhausen, Clash of the Titans and all that fun stuff, doing stop motion. And along come the computers, and it was like, oh, well, I can move stuff faster. Hey, people like playing stuff, so I'll make my Pac-Man, I'll make my Space Invaders, and people really liked it. And I was poor. I was like dirt poor. So I would make these games, and then I would sell them to kids at school. So I got lunch money.
Wow.
And so that's kind of how it started in sixth grade when I was 12.
Crazy.
And then professionally, when I was like 15, I had done some stuff on a friend's Atari. And it was more like a frenemy, really. Like Cartman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that had everything, didn't appreciate it, and all that, and was happy to have me over so he could show off everything that he had.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But I would write on binder paper my games, and I would write down all the sprites and everything, and then I would walk over to Homeboy's house, and I would take his crap, telling me, how much better than me he was, and all that fun stuff. And I wasn't going to be anything from making these little games. But then, haha, here I am, 36 years later. And the last time I saw Homeboy, he was a petroleum expediter. I mean, I got nothing against people that work at gas stations and all that fun stuff. But if you're going to puff up your chest and tell me I'm not going to be anything, the next time I see you, you shouldn't be filling my gas tank. Just
damn, he's throwing shade on the stream. That is so amazing. You said
sorry.
petroleum expediter.
I've never heard.
I have never heard that. That was like
that's awesome.
That was
I'm
very
use
colorful.
That one. I'm gonna steal that.
So how did you? So you like fast forward to AAA. You did so much stuff in AAA and working with at big companies and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you transitioned into indie games?
Yeah, it's crazy. I always looked a little older. Oddly enough, people tell me I look younger than I do now. But back when I was younger, I looked older. So I could get in the bars. And there was a bar
You got that real quick. You got that Lando look. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, thanks. That's good. I like that. Back in my day, seriously though, there weren't many role models for my gen. People nowadays, 90s babies, grew up with a whole bunch of people on the screen and all that stuff, and we're just now getting into games and getting more black faces on screen. But really, when I was growing up, there was Billy D, Sexy Lando. And there was the dad from Good Times and Jefferson. So that was it. So you saying that I got the Lando thing, I'm cool. James. So yeah, I was in this bar, and so were these other guys that were around my age. So none of us were supposed to be in that bar. Come to find out, we were all like Prince fans, and Homeboy had a company that he was starting up called Visual Concepts, and was like, "Oh, you should come with us and all this and do this." And then I didn't really go with Visual Concepts, but we kept in touch. And I told you I had two sets of twins. So one of the sets of twins came in 1990, and you can't just be out there. Kind of living from paycheck to paycheck, doing spec work and all that fun stuff. So I needed to find a real job. And he introduced me to people at Electronic Arts who were looking for somebody that could program, maybe do a little art, and definitely design. And I said, well, I can do all that. And so I joined EA and worked on a handful of things there, like Madden and this little thing called the Strike Series that people may have heard of, and General Chaos, and I don't know, anything action-wise that was going on in the early 90s, I probably touched, tested or worked on. And that was like my serious introduction into AAA. Before that, I worked, with companies doing spec work or did some edutainment, but, EA was my AAA school. And what EA is really good at teaching you, at least certainly back then, was how to scope and hit dates. Because back then it was like, here's a line in the sand, and here's your box, make your game that fits in that box, right? Versus a lot of stuff nowadays is, I've got an idea, and then you just kind of plow forward, fleshing out the idea. And the problem with that, especially for AAA, is that things are costing, like $200-300 million. So you can't really work that way. But it teaches you some discipline. And so, Electronic Arts, Crystal Dynamics, worked on Legacy of Kain, and worked on a bunch of their stuff while they were transitioning from the 3DO and the Saturn to PlayStation. So did, like testing and stuff on Gex, and then let's see. I don't know. It's been so much. Medal of Honor, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Star Wars Episode 3, Strider, Strider 2014.
Super dope.
That was one of my faves. You talked about the 28 days, 28 games. I woke up to Black History Month and said, and I just said it to my wife. I said, I should just do a game a day. I should pick out of the 60 some odd titles that I've done. I should just pick a game a day and just for fun.
We need a 60-day month for Black History Month.
Well, she's my biggest cheerleader, and she's like, why are you going to stop at 28? She gets mad when I down
you
myself.
You should do 2 months. You should have it bleed into March. I think that would be actually pretty amazing. You should just drop 30 more days, son. You know what I mean?
We'll see. But I'm a little busy. Like I said, 2.5 games and just the me for the most part. Run Die Run Again is in transition, which is why I couldn't get you guys a playable, because I broke the game. But I broke it for good reason. It's going through transition and going to be
we're dying to play it.
Yeah.
Yesterday we showed it on Game Changers with Twitch, and Cup of Noodle was like, she really wanted to play the action, action paced runs and stuff. So we can't wait to get our hands on it.
What would you say?
It's a fun game. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. I was just saying, what would you say is the biggest misconception of people trying to get in this industry of making games and building games? Like, people think oh, I got an idea for a game.
That's your number one. So there's 2 things. We'll start with the number one real quick, which is that I have an idea, right? And I say this a million times, and I'll say it again. Ideas are free, but execution costs. So everyone has an idea. But it's important that you can actually execute on that idea, that you can decide this fits the idea, this doesn't fit the idea, and what it takes to actually make that idea into something, that you can actually see and play and touch and hand to people. So it's not just about the idea. A lot of my contemporaries get mad that they think I'm downplaying the idea. Ideas are great, but like I said, everybody's got one, and I come up with ideas. I don't know. I can be walking down the street and look at a crack in the cement, and I can come up with an idea. But that, you have to make it, right?
I want to play that.
And that's
game,
the other. The other misconception is that making games is easy. People think that it's either easy, or they certainly think it's easier than it actually is. It's super hard to even make Space Invaders, and that's why I tell anybody that comes to me and goes, "I want to make games," or my kid wants to make games. What advice do you have for them? And I say, finish something, make something, and make something small. Take your smallest idea and cut that in half, and then realize that you're only going to get half of that done, because, like I said, making games is hard, right? If you're making it by yourself, it's exponentially harder. Getting people together helps, but then there's a management of people and kind of driving everybody towards a singular goal. So there's so many moving parts. It's best to minimize the amount of moving parts that you have.
Yeah.
so that you can get in there and get her done. Somebody else on the stream said, don't try making your favorite idea first or whatever, and I'm totally paraphrasing. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say just real quick, like Adam on the last stream, he did the Sonic prototype, then he did the Mega Man prototype, and then he went into Proto Droid Delta, and that's exactly what you're saying. He's like, let me just build some stuff, and then I'm gonna go from there. I want to kind of loop it back into Run Die Run Again. So you're talking about building that prototype. How did that get you into moving towards building Run Die Run Again, and then like actually starting on like full production?
Yeah, so I was in AAA. I was working on some stuff. I was working at Amazon, and eventually one of the games I was leading up, New World, will eventually come out, and I hope the best for my team and all that fun stuff. But I have all these ideas, and they come at me really fast, and I just want to make them, right? But especially when you're working for a big company like Amazon, they don't really like you spending your time making somebody else's game or making your own game. It's like, no, you work for us, so make our game. So I just put this stuff on the shelf, and then last year I was just like, you know what, I got to do this. And my wife's like, it's time, and my family's like, it's time. You gotta go out and do your thing. Nice. So I'm sitting there going, okay, I have all these grand ideas, right? Even I, with all my advice, I have these grand ideas, and I have my magnum opuses that I want to make. And then I have other things that are really just about kind of experimenting with ideas. And I love running around in Destiny. I love the way everything looks when I'm running around Destiny. I love all these movement options. I love shooting through the gun too, but I didn't want to do all that. I was like, what can I do that allows me to run around like that? And then I also love platformers and games like Super Meat Boy and stuff that are a little hardcore. I don't like the super hardcore, but I like tough ones. This footage is not making it look tough, by the way. I should have probably died more often. So get all these things together, and I think to myself, well, what can I do, right? Regardless of my years in the biz and all that fun stuff and what I can do, artistically and musically and all that, there's still a lot of things I can't do. So animating is not my forte, even though I wanted to be an animator. So animating people, not my forte. I was like, all right, first person, I don't have to animate people. Platforming, you know what? People are getting to the point where they can actually platform in 3D. So I want to make this thing used to actually be called Super Meat Boy First Person for the longest time. And I just kind of started it that way. Now, that goes counter to here's the box and fill in it that I learned from EA. But that's part of my being indie now. Me being indie, I can just go, you know what, I got an idea. And just as long as I can pay the bills, I can embark on said idea and explore it. So I wanted to explore moving around the space, dodging things, it being a bit hardcore, and kind of working on chaining together moves and building up momentum. So what you're seeing is actually sort of my prototype of that. Now it's probably prettier than most people's prototypes, but that's also because I really like to do environment art and stuff. So
how did you
yeah.
I was just gonna say, how did you add diversity to the game culturally?
So one of the things, which actually in this footage you've got the cyber hands, but all of the characters, there's a set of characters that you can choose from, and they each have they're each diverse. I think there's a hint of it in the at the end of the trailer. You see a woman and she's vaulting over something, and she's a black woman and all this, and like she's when I look at the characters, what I wanted to have in there, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna purposely have a whole list of boxes to check, like, oh, got to make sure we have this covered, that covered. It was the opposite. It was, oh, good, I don't have to do anything. The only thing that I know I'm gonna do is I know I'm gonna put on a diverse cast of characters, because if I don't, who is? You know, I mean, like, I've worked on stuff where it was like, no, you got to put this person in there, or working on somebody else's IP. I couldn't make the Mace Windu game. I had to make the Anakin and Obi-Wan go at it game.
Yeah.
So in this game, there's characters, and each character actually has their own set of movement. So, like, some of them have double jump or triple jump. Some of them have kind of like a Princess Peach jump where you jump and glide, and some of them have like time stop and all that. And they're kind of it's all kind of tied into the character's character. Characters that aren't typical. Like, the woman that's a kind of spokesperson that's on the end of the trailer, her name's Nessa. She looks like a real black woman. She's kind of thick, because I don't think there's enough of that. I really don't.
Right.
And yet, and she's not. None of my characters are running around with their midriff showing and all that, and it's not. I'm not knocking any game that does that, and I'm not saying that I won't have a game where some woman's running around in a bikini or a guy's running around with no shirt on. I might, who knows? But to me, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit.
Yeah, you don't.
This is supposed to be this.
That in.
No, it's supposed to be an intergalactic contest, right? Set in some crazy far off sci-fi world. Why the hell would somebody be running around with their shirt all down here and all this with right? But you can make characters that are appealing and realistic looking. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tony, for hopping on board. Where can we find the game and look forward to having it? Platforms and such.
So RDRA is there's a Steam page, which I think you guys are linking to in all of this.
The media, you could check it out, Media Indie Exchange. It's on Steam. We have a whole page that you can wish list, or buy some of the other games. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, and you can check out all kinds of information on RetroNinja.com about me and the games going forward. Run Dice going to be towards the end of this year. Okay. And I have another game that we really don't have time to cover and all that fun stuff. But it's a little more.
We're going to have you on multiple times, so you don't have to worry about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, Tony, for jumping on board the Triple OG Retro Ninja Run Die Run Again.
That's right. I want that early demo though, brother. Come on.
I'll hook you up. It's just timing. I started ripping into stuff, and then it was like, and I understand you guys. You don't want to get a build the day before and then have to figure it out. So,
we're gonna play it.
My
soon.
bad.
Yeah. No, but we're ready.
But thanks for having me, and
always.
And
it's crazy.
Thanks for the advice. Oh, yeah.
No problem.
All right, man.
And the game stuff, all the stuff you guys are showing is awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, thanks for your support.
No problem.
All right.
It.
And that was Tony Barnes with Run Die Run Again. Go ahead and wish list that. Next up is Game Heads. We're gonna have Raymond Graham on, but before that, we're gonna take a quick break. Be back soon. and we are back from our break. We want to shout out our sponsors before we go and get into the Gameheads Raymond Graham interview. We have amazing sponsors. Without them, this would not even be possible. We want to shout out Raw Fury, PlayStation, Humble Games, Razer, and Kickstarter. And of course, we want to shout out Humble Games as well for the Black Game Developer Fund. I am one of the advisors. It's been an amazing experience working on that. If you want to find out more, go to the link below. But right now, we're going to go into the trailer for Gameheads. Let's hit it.
Yo, what's up, Humble Bundle community? My name is Zor Mercado and I am the broadcasting technician for Gameheads. I want to thank all of you for giving Gameheads this opportunity. We are honored to be a featured charity this month, and I'm here to tell you about the Gameheads program and what we do. At Gameheads, we change the lives of students of color and students with low incomes by training them in video game and tech industries. We spend the school year learning about the fundamentals of video game design, development, DevOps, and mixed media. Then in the summer, students form teams and choose their own roles like level designer, animator, or coder, and build a video game demo over 15 weeks with the help of our amazing industry professional mentors. At Gameheads, we are developing the next generation industry talent. With your help, we can continue to create opportunities for our students, supply them with valuable hardware and software, provide professional and academic mentorship, and truly make an impact on the future of technology and video game industries. So thank you and stay safe.
Before we hop into the interview, can you tell us, Alfonso, because you're a big part of the program, and shout out to Damon too, like how the program came to be and a little bit about Gameheads.
Yeah, Damon started the program along with several of the students, so they helped him co-found the program, and because he was working at another organization and wanted to do game development, and the students really wanted to get do games, and he just basically bootstrapped it and did it and said, if you guys do your work on the other program, I'll start this thing, and he did it, and it took off. And one of my nephews was actually in the program that Damon was teaching at. I was super impressed with how he delivered and taught the students. And when he started the Gameheads thing, I was like, hey, you should probably think about doing some tech stuff too. And he was like, let's do it.
Yeah, we could turn the music. Yeah, we got it is like, it's really awesome to check that out, and there's a ton of different like studios involved, Double Fine Productions and EA and Unity and right,
all of them, Niantic. We have a number of studios that are really donating to the program and helping. We've gotten volunteers and mentors from all over the industry, which is amazing.
It's a really cool platform for kids and students alike. Let's get right into the interview. We have Raymond standing by. What is up, Raymond?
Yeah, it's going good. What's up, Alfonso? How you guys doing?
Good. Can I ask one real quick question before Alfonso jumps in? What is your background? Because I know you have a rich background.
Right. Yeah, so my background is, I've been in the game industry for about 22 years now. Started as a graphics engineer, worked on a bunch of different games like NBA 2K, NBA Street, Godfather game, Bioshock 2, and Splinter Cell Blacklist, right? So spent a lot of time making a lot of games, and now I'm at Unity, working with external partners who use our engine and helping them make their games better and how to use our technology better. And I'm also I'm on the board at Gameheads and as an advisor, and I do a lot of the Unity instruction for a lot of the students.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, Raymond's continually, a great mentor to the students. He's a industry professional. He's dedicated to this program. Has done tremendous work for the students, and like I can't say enough about how hard he works and how much he gives back to the program. Let's jump into it a little bit. So what is like the most rewarding part of you, or why are you part of this program?
Right. So for the longest time, I was just heads down working, right? Just doing my work. And then I looked around and realized it's like, I'm still the only black face here. I'm still one of the only black people at the company. I'm still one of the few black folks I know in the industry, right? So it's like, how can I change that? How can I give back? How can I share my knowledge? And then I was talking with Marcus and Lizette, and I was like, hey, how can I hear you guys are involved with something. How can I help? And so I became a mentor at GameHeads as a way of like giving back and helping grow the next generation of talent, right, in the industry, and get kids interested in video games. Like how I got interested, I got my first computer and I just started working on it, and that's how I got in the industry. And so I just want to make sure that there's opportunity for kids that are out there to at least see, is the game industry something that they want to do or not. And then I had the opportunity to do the mentorship at GameHeads, and that really is what got me involved and got me going with this.
Awesome. And what do you think is some of the like greatest challenges you encountered like throughout your career, like to being like the sole black face in some of these organizations? It's really hard. I mean, I find that when I'm in the tech industry, it's just feeling alone in those roles.
Yeah, but I don't know if I really even thought of it as like a disadvantage. I was just kind of like, let's just do it. Like heads down, just keep going. Mm-hmm. Just even to start, like when I went to school for computer science, I was one of 3 black folks in the class, right? So it's always been like this, right? So it's just a matter of, I'm not going to let that stop me from my goals, but I damn sure want to make sure that the next generation have it easier and have it better. You know what I mean?
I was just gonna jump in. What's the most rewarding thing for jumping into GameHeads, and teaching the students?
Yeah, for me, it's hard to teach kids how to make video games. It's hard to make video games.
Yeah.
And it's also hard. It's also hard to have the patience. To teach a group of young people how to make video games, right? But when I see the end result, when I see the games that they've made over the years, and how impactful some of them are, how well polished some of them are, how fun to play some of those games are, like that is what makes it worth everything. Seeing their reaction, seeing the public's reaction to the games, seeing people totally impressed, like that makes me super happy, because when I was that age, I didn't have any of that or any of those kind of opportunities.
Yeah, I felt the same way. As I'm a indie game developer, and not having those opportunities, just having to dive in and just testing things out and learning how to code and all that, but like no real mentorship that could have fast tracked me and show me. I mean, we're all gonna bump our heads, right? But if you could bump your heads a few less times, that would be very, very impactful.
Absolutely.
Right. And if there's also, if there's mentors there to help you, and tell you the facts, tell you what really to expect, that also helps a lot, right?
Yeah, and you said your role in Unity is you guys are you're specifically, your role right now is helping companies use the Unity engine to improve their games.
Right. Yeah. So it's about improving their games, but it's also about helping and improving our engine as well through what we learned by working with these partners, and so that really helps make sure that the next set of games that are going to be made on Unity are in a better position, because we've learned some things and we've done some improvements along the way.
So what do you think separates a good game from like a great game?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think the main difference, the things that I really care about, I think a game has to be very deep in terms of it allows everybody in. It's very accessible, but then when you want to go deeper and when you want to become more skilled, there's another layer to it.
Nice.
And then you grow with the game and you get more experience at it. Like games like Fortnite and Apex Legends have like those qualities, right? Where it's very easy to get into, you can have fun playing it, but then you could really get real hardcore about it and go to another level, right?
Nice.
And to me, that's most of the best games have those qualities, right?
For sure. And how do you ease the students, at Gameheads into that? Because obviously they're not going to off the top hit a a three base hit home run type scenario, right? Like they have to kind of get eased into it. How do you do that with the students?
Well, for me, I don't like my goal at Gameheads and for the games the students make isn't to make good games.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the goal, right? The goal is for them to learn the process of making video games, and it's for them to understand. And part of that too, on the engineering side, is for them to become better engineers, learn coding, learn about some of the more in-depth topics. That's really the goal. So that, and if they make a good video game in that process, more the better, right? But we're preparing them for when they really want to go into the industry or go to post-secondary education, that they will be in a better position once they're there, right? And then they could think about how to make a good game once they know what they're doing, right?
One of the things I love about Raymond, and I say this all the time when we're in person, when we get back to being in person, is that Raymond is not easy on the students. Like there's no coddling. There's like you gotta do the work. He's like, you gotta show up. You gotta really invest in yourself. And I think that's the thing you have to do with our folks is like, look, you're not gonna no one's gonna handhold you through a role if you get one of these jobs at AAA companies. Raymond's gonna be there like, oh, it's okay, buddy. You can just not do good. No.
I think that's extremely important because there's, sometimes in these other programs, there's a lot of hand holding and you can't do that. It's like, oh yeah, I'm black, so I can, they're going to hand me this stuff, affirmative action. It's like, no, we got to work twice as hard as anyone else. And we need mentors to help us, and they can't necessarily always be easy on us. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. They ask me all the time. They're like, Ray, how did you get so good at programming? Or how did you get to where you are? And the answer is really easy. It's like, you got to practice and try hard. You know what I mean, right? You just have to keep practicing the craft and keep going, and you get better over time with more practice, right? Like you see me do this real fast now, but I've been doing this for 30 years. Of course I'm really doing this really fast, right? You have to build up that skill and that knowledge, you know what I mean, right?
That's totally true.
Super impressed with that. And what do you think are the specific barriers for folks of color in this industry? Especially in this industry.
Honestly, I think when I was coming up, I think a lot of the barriers, a lot of the technical and practical barriers are really not there these days. When I was coming up, when you wanted to make a video game, you had to build the entire video game yourself, right? You had to write the renderer, you had to write the control systems, physics, you had to do all that yourself. And that's a lot of things to know and a lot of knowledge you have to find somewhere. These days with engines like Unreal and Unity and Godot, and there's a ton of engines out there that really lower the barrier to entry. But for Black folks, there's still there's still wealth gap disparities, and so that might limit opportunity to get access to a computer that can run these engines and things like that. And then there's the knowledge. The video game industry is also very insular, very small.
Yeah.
And so then how do you get that information and the knowledge out so that folks even know if it's awareness and how to make video games, right? I think those are the barriers that we're facing today.
Yeah, and that's what some of the things that the Gameheads program is solving. One of my roles with the program is to make sure the students have computers that can actually run the Unity engine, and they have access to that stuff. So and then access to mentors like Raymond. It's just ultimately very important to have those tools.
Yeah. I mean, we super appreciate you jumping on and everything you do for Gameheads. Gameheads is such an amazing, program, and I think we need this to be. I know it's worldwide. We talked to Lizette yesterday. Actually, she was talking about Gameheads and Psychonauts 2, and we talked to Marcus last time. Every time we should have these discussions. It's extremely important,
Yep. Yeah, and it's been like it's been hard and it's been fun like to do this and work with Alfonso and Damon and Marcus and Lizette and Paul and everybody. It's been a fun ride, and we're seeing great success and a lot of progress, and nothing makes me happier than doing this.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Raymond,
Yes.
for joining us. That's Raymond Graham. Where can we find you, actually?
Oh man, I'm on. The best place to follow me is on Twitter, and it's Wadaras on Twitter, WADARASS, Wadaras on Twitter. Yeah,
Nice.
and if you're Jamaican, you know what that means. But yeah, that's what's up.
He's also on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay, we'll check you on LinkedIn, brother. And also,
professionally,
shout out
professionally,
Oh, what?
professionally, I'm on LinkedIn. Professionally, I'm on LinkedIn as Ray Graham. Yeah.
Okay. Ray Graham. Cool. Well, shout out to Gameheads. If you want to find out more about Gameheads, how can we do that?
You can definitely go to GameheadsOakland.org and donate.
Yeah.
You can check out the board and be a mentor to the program if you're in the industry as well.
Cool.
Yeah. You could also if you're interested in being a mentor, just drop me a DM and I could direct you to the right people.
Cool. Thank you so much, Raymond.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate
All right,
it.
man. Take care, y'all.
All right.
Up next, we have Amma from Michelle Nakunja from Join Play Games. We're going to launch the trailer right now and get right into it. That was the trailer for Amma from Join Play Games. The game is gorgeous.
It's beautiful. The thing I really love about this game is that it's basically depicting culture that you don't get to see in games, and it's actually beautifully designed. I would love to, want to definitely get my hands on this game. So it's on my wish list.
Yeah, it's definitely top 5 for me of the upcoming games that we have on here. We have Michelle Nakunja. I actually spoke with him before because he is part of the Black Game Developer Fund for Humble Games, and he's an African developer. So we're seeing this slew of awesome games from black developers from Africa come out of the woodworks, and they're making this amazing content and these games that look like really AAA, and they have big teams and stuff. So it's awesome to see that. We hope to talk with him soon, Michelle Nakunja, and they are also a part of the Humble Black Game Developer Fund. We want to shout out to our sponsors again. If you're interested in taking part of the Black Game Developer Fund, you can check out the link below. And then we want to shout out our sponsors once again because they are helping to make this stream possible. Shout out to Twitch, shout out to Valve and Steam too, Raw Fury, of course, PlayStation, Humble Games, Razer, and Kickstarter. And we're going to roll to our next developer with... Where are we at? She Dreams Elsewhere. And let's roll the trailer.
That's what I dream about.
That is She Dreams Elsewhere. We have Davion on the line. The game looks really amazing. We were playing it earlier, and we played the trailer yesterday, and people were really digging it.
Yeah, I love the visuals in the game. It's aesthetically, it's just breathtaking.
Yo, what's up, Davion?
Hey man, how's life?
It's good. I love your setup. It's gorgeous.
Ah, thanks man. I've always said that like if I wasn't like a game developer, I'd be like an interior designer or something. So I appreciate the compliment.
For sure. Everything's been blowing up for you, man. Like you've been featured all these different places, and I'm not. So how has development been going for the game?
Well, you know, it's coming. I mean, 2020 kind of put like a wrench in like literally everything. But now it's like I'm like really excited of like how it's been going. A lot of like exciting stuff to like show, some new announcements coming up in like later this year. So yeah, I'm ready to be done with this game, and I'm ready for y'all to finally experience it.
Nice. So we're gonna get into it. We're actually playing the game right now. Alfonso's playing it. Can you tell us a bit? We had you on the stream before, but please tell us a little bit about your background and what led you here to developing games independently.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm based out of Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised. I started making games about like 11 years ago when I was in 5th grade. Just kind of like messing around, didn't really know what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. But in high school, I was like, hey, like I kind of want to like see if I can make like some type of like career out of this. So I went to like a few like prototypes. All of them kind of sucked in some way or some form or fashion. But eventually, my senior year, I landed on She Dreams Elsewhere. And at first, it went through that cycle of like, oh hey, I'm like working on this one project, but there's this other idea that I got. Let me go like play with this idea, flirt with it for a little bit, see what's good with over there. And usually that resulted in like the previous project like just getting like canned. And it almost happened to this one, but there was something about it. I was like, I have to just like keep making this game. I have to like just see it through. So yeah, that was like 5 years ago. Thought it was gonna take about 3 months. So yeah, here we are, still in this nightmare.
It fits so well. I mean, that's kind of another reoccurring, theme is like we're just spending so much time. Like Sean was like nearly 10 games on Treachery and Beatdown City. So, and I've been there too. Can you talk a little bit about the background of the game and the narrative in general?
Yeah, so basically the whole concept is that you're playing Nestalia and you're in a coma. You gotta find out like how you got in a coma, find a way to wake up, confront your own inner nightmares, and just have like this horrible, trippy, personal experience the entire time. And for me, like I've always been like super like into this like dreams and like how they can affect, how they can like reflect like your own like what you're going through emotionally. And plus like it just allows for just like so much just like creative freedom. Like you can pretty much like do whatever you want in a dream, for better or worse, development wise. So yeah, I just always been like super into dreams, very into like the surreal and the weird stuff. And it's like ultimately just like kind of making like whatever like weird stuff that I want to, which thankfully I've been able to do so far. So appreciate that.
So what are you doing right now? What is Alfonso doing in the world?
Yeah, so right now you're going through the first like official level. This is Oblivion. Beforehand, you had like this like really weird like bad dream. You woke up, your friend dragged you to a party that you didn't want to go to. And at that part you were like, not really feeling this, had an anxiety attack, fun times. So you're like, all right, I'm out, going back home, I'm done with this. But as you left, you kind of like found yourself in like this weird like dream, like hellscape. So now at this time, like Dolly's just kind of like trying to like find her way out, just figure out like what is going on, find her dog because like her dog's here for some reason. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from there.
Can you describe the combat? Because I think it's really interesting. It has that kind of Phantasy Star aesthetic, you know, old school.
Yeah, I'm like a huge fan of just like old school RPGs, like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Persona, Earthbound especially, if it wasn't obvious enough.
Yeah, Earthbound. I forgot about that one for sure.
Yeah, one of my favorite games of all time. That and Mother 3. But yeah, so basically combat, it's all about just kind of like getting through battles as efficiently as possible. So basically, if you like strike an enemy's like weak point, you can stun them for a turn. But if you stun all enemies, then you get to like just link up with like your whole party, do like this devastating attack, and it's kind of like end things like that much quicker. So it's all about just like exploiting weaknesses, getting through battles as quickly as possible. Because I've kind of learned, especially like as I've like gotten older and while playing RPGs, is that like I love the battle systems, I love the mechanics, but eventually it's like, all right, I kind of want to like get on with it, you know. So I kind of describe this game as like an RPG for adults who have things to do, right? So it's just,
yeah,
battles are like just super quick. I try to keep it as simple as possible while still like having depth with it too. And like overall like length of the game is like just 5 to 10 hours. Like theoretically, if you wanted to, you could just like marathon this entire game in like a weekend, if not like a day even. So
that's perfect. How did you use contemporary mechanics for a game that has kind of that old school appeal?
It just kind of like comes to like my own like personal preferences. Like I said, like I love like the whole like old school style, but like I didn't want to bring like more like quality of life updates to it. Like there's no like random encounters. Your HP and your SP, like they restore like after every single battle. And then the final game is going to be like difficulty options, more accessibility options. Just basically any way that like more people can like get through this game. I'm cool with that. That's like my goal.
And you're doing like, you're developing every aspect of this game, or are you like, what is your team like? Team dynamic?
Yeah, so it's mostly just me. Beyond me, I have my composer Mimi Page, who's absolutely amazing. She composed like all the original scores. There's my character designer Yanina. She makes like the actual like full scale illustrations and like the character portraits. And then I also have my porting team who's like getting the game on the consoles, and Papa Jan and my PR team who like does like the bigger like press beats. But beyond that, at the moment, it's just me going insane in this dungeon that I call an apartment.
Where are you at? Where are you located?
Cleveland Heights.
Okay, that's
which
right.
I do not recommend at all. I cannot wait to get out.
What are some of the challenges that you've had with development? You said the game has been in development for 5 years, right?
Yeah, it's just, I think the biggest thing for me, especially like during this past year, is just like keeping focus and like that like motivation up. Especially like in this past like 12 months where it's like every day it's just the same. Like I barely leave the house. Like I'm always surrounded by my game. Like I was talking to my friend like a few months ago, and he was like, yeah, like you decorate your apartment just like your game. And I was like, oh my god, you're right. Like I'm too lost in the sauce. Like I'm trapped here. So yeah, it's just like kind of keeping up that motivation, just like powering through and like prioritizing well. I'm still struggling with that, but like ultimately you just gotta take it one day at a time.
What are some of the final touches? Because the game is it's coming close to release, right?
Yeah, it's just right now it's just like a lot of this like finishing up content, lots of polishing. I've yet to go to the balancing phase, which for an RPG, oh god, I'm not good at math, which is like really ironic considering that I'm making an RPG. But yeah, it's just those like little like final details that just take up a lot of my time. Plus like external stuff like just like handling like marketing, like talking to like other devs and like networking, like all that stuff. So yeah, there's a lot, but it's a fun time.
Yeah, for sure. I was always thinking about what it would take to make, a real-time strategy game or a turn-based like tactics game, and then I thought about that math problem, and I'm like, damn, that requires some, additional skills for sure. So I feel that, but I never thought about that, balancing for your game in general.
Yeah, thank God for like RPG Maker, which like that's like the main engine that I use for the PC and Mac versions.
Oh, that's cool.
And it like there's still, believe me, there's still a lot of math to be done, but it simplifies things enough to where I can just like focus on just like on like the game itself and the creative aspects, and just hitting the ground running with that.
Did you also compose the music too? Because that's one of the things that like really stands out, like the kind of lo-fi, chill, moody music, that has this vibe to it. It makes me want to talk like Barry White, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that part that was done by my composer, Mimi Page.
Okay,
it's funny how we met, because like she met me off of my IMDb page, which is very outdated. Do not go look at it. We don't talk about those movies; they're trash. But She Dreams also was on that page too. She found me like way back in like 2016. She was like, "Hey, like I love your game, I love your concept. Like, I want to make music for you. Like, I don't care like what I need to do. Like, I would do anything to like make this happen." And we just have like just such like a dope relationship like since then. I love her music, and yeah, just shout out to Mimi.
Yeah, shout out to her. It definitely pulls through. And I really like the limited color palette. It really stands out. Like you said, I didn't even put two and two together, but like when I looked at your background with the blue and the purple flourishes, that does definitely, come into
Lost
play.
in the sauce, man.
Lost in the sauce, dude. I totally get it. You know what I mean? So how did you come up with that, the art style for the game?
Total accident. Like the original concept of the game was like in like this full like colorful, like more like Earthbound like type of style. And I pressed the wrong button one day like early on, and it made like the enemy graphic I was working on like entirely black and white. And I was like, that's kind of wrong, but like it looks cool. So I started with like having like just the enemies be in black and white, and then I was like, okay, what if I make everything black and white? And then what if I make everything black and white, but like add like a little spice of color here and there. And yeah, I just been like developing it from there. Like I just love I love colors in general. Like if it wasn't obvious enough.
Yeah, for sure. And what you have to do a lot. Like you have to do business development. You have to. I know you were working with some PR folks, but you also do marketing and stuff. What do you think is one of the most challenging aspects of like putting the full package together? Because it's all these elements composed into one, game.
It's just more like, just really just like keeping track of like everything and like where everything is. Especially like when you're working alone. Like like. There's like games take whole teams to develop, but when it's just like you and it's like, right, look, I gotta like work on like the animation, but I also need to like finish writing, but also need to like do the level design, but also need to like email this one guy who like wants an interview, and also like do like all this other stuff, and like it's a lot. So I'm still working on that aspect. It's really hard. Do not make a game of this scope alone. I do not recommend it, but it's coming. It's coming, y'all, one of these days.
do you have so you're finishing this up? You must have different projects that you want to work on in the future in your head, or do you ever veer off and spend a little bit of time tinkering and making little prototypes?
Less like prototypes and more just writing. Because I want to, in addition to doing games, I also am a filmmaker and photographer. So I have photography side projects. I have a photo shoot tomorrow actually.
Oh, nice.
And I also not to reveal my hand just yet, but I've been working on my next feature film script in addition to just brainstorming the next game. But I don't know. I don't really know what's happening after this game. The future is bright, but it's also very scary.
Yeah. I understand. You don't even want to think about that until after this. Sometimes till after this stuff is done, because it's such an arduous process. What is that's so interesting about your film background? How did that get started? How did you get started in film and screenwriting and stuff?
It's really weird. I was always into film from when I was a kid. to the point where I would like make like these storyboards like in like these notebooks, like complete with like these fake credits and everything. So I always just like loved cinema. And then in high school, like around my sophomore year, I was like, hey, like this game stuff, it's cool, but like I forget like what movie it was. I want to say it was like Gone Girl. I saw it in theaters and I was like, yo, this is dope. Like I got the drive to like make a movie now. So like the next week I called up my friends. I was like, yo, we're making a short film the next few weeks. I have no clue how to do it, but we're going to do it. And so from then on, I've been like just making like short films. I made 2 feature films, again, both of which are trash. Do not ask about them. I will not be answering any questions.
I was about to ask you about what those feature films. I'm gonna go on your IMDb page right after this. So
I'm about to get exposed. No, but yeah, I really do love films. I have like more plans for films on the horizon. And yeah, there definitely like is like crossover between like my game process and like film process too. So it's like I am just like a naturally creative person, and if I can just like make something, like no matter what the medium that it is, I'm a happy boy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how does your experience from filmmaking bleed into your game? Obviously, there's a narrative design and different elements there.
It's just like a lot of this like just kind of like capturing that, like, I feel like I'm gonna pronounce this wrong again, like mise en scène, like just like, you know, capturing like the right like vibe, like directing it like to like fit the vision, and also like from a more like production standpoint, like filmmaking is like inherently just like a much more, well, not like much more, but in my current situation, it's much more collaborative compared to like this game where it's like, you know, it's mostly just me. But even still, then like just having like those skills to like collaborate and like connect with like other like partners and like the press and like all that stuff, stuff like that, it really comes in handy too. So
for sure. What would you recommend aspiring developers do to get started in the business as a developer?
Don't. Video games are hell, man. Why would you? I don't even know why any of us are doing this. But if you're gonna continue on with that foolish decision like I did, and which I will most likely continue to do, I would just say, just get started. Just make something. Start small, especially, but just like the biggest step is really just like making that first step. No matter like what form it takes, just like put your voice out there, get feedback, put it out to the world, and just like keep making stuff afterwards. Because no matter like what I've made or like the quality that it's been, like I've always like learned something from each and every single project that's like grown over time. Like She Dreams Elsewhere, it would not be like what it is today, like without like all those like past games that I've done for fun, without like all like the shitty like feature films that I've done. Like it's all like life is like a learning process. So I would just say just like start that learning as soon as you can.
And you had previous game projects. Can you talk a little bit about those? What were some of your other games that you created before She Dreams Elsewhere?
Yeah, they were just like mostly just like super like small projects. Like I think I did a count like years ago, which I'm pretty sure is like kind of inaccurate now. But at that time, I like worked on like 60 games of my own, most of which were just like, I'm going to play around with this 60? For a day. Wait, don't get too excited yet.
I was like, wow,
like most of the
that's crazy.
Yeah, most of those projects were just like, it's me like as like in like between like 6th grade to like, you know, sophomore year of high school, and like just tinkering around and like for like a day or like a week or like a few weeks, just like making whatever. Most of those games were finished. Out of those 60 games, I think like 12 of those I actually like finished and like shipped out to like the internet. Just like put it on this like random just like RPG Maker sites that got like barely like any downloads, but it was still like a learning experience. It was still like a good chance to like just connect with like some sort of like external like game dev community too. So again, like it's all like a learning process.
Yeah. How did that work when you started in the community? Is that community that you've been working with like still there? Are you still communicating with the same people who tried your games early on? Because I think that's like an important part of the process is kind of building a community surrounding your vision as a a director of these games.
Yeah, I've like always just like loved like the RPG Maker community. Been involved since like pretty much since I got started with RPG Maker like all those years ago. And there's people from like way back then, like we're still like friends to this day. Like even like on Facebook and like Instagram, we're always just like hitting each other up, like still following each other. And yeah, they've always been like just super supportive. I definitely made like a lot of mistakes starting like back in the day, like especially like when I got started like making games. It was also like my first time like really like communicating with other people on the internet as like a fifth grader. So it's like there was definitely like some just like looking back, I was like, oh man, like why did I say that? Why did I do that? Like why? But again, learning process. Mistakes are made, but we get past them.
Yeah, it's really cool, like that, the Unreal community and the Unity community and like the RPG Maker community. Like there's such a large breadth of content and creators, hobbyists and professionals and stuff. It's so interesting. We got to tell Alfonso where to go in this game.
I'm making progress, man.
He's smashing it up.
Oh, you are. You actually, you putting in that work. I see you.
Yeah, I'm getting these enemies. Yes.
You gotta hit those weak points, man. Experiment with skills.
Yeah, you're smashing it up for sure.
And you got that limit bar filled too. You could use your Dahlia special skill if you want to. If you want to, I mean, you're the one with the sticks,
Some skills you got. Roast.
Where do you get the ideas for these characters? These enemies are super dope looking.
Usually just like either my dreams or just like random like shower thoughts. And also just like I'm inspired by like art, like just in general. Like literally this entire apartment, like there is like not a single blank wall around it. So yeah, I love just kind of like experimenting around with stuff. And then from there it's like, okay, what would this enemy do? Like where is Dahlia at like in the game right now? Like what's her like mental like mindset? What like lesson does she need to learn right now in this level? And like how do I make her learn that like through either the narrative or the mechanics in like the worst possible way? So it's a fun time.
Yeah. So it like her mental stability progresses. How is the story progress along with the gameplay?
Yeah, ultimately it's just like a story about like how it's okay to not be okay.
Okay.
And even though like the concept and like some of like the like aesthetic is like kind of like comes off as like very just like moody and like dour. Ultimately the whole story is like it's just like a story of like just keeping up hope and like optimism even in like the darkest times, which I'm not sure if anybody can relate to that right now.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I was kind of joking about that yesterday with Cup of Noodle when we were looking at the trailer about how it's like, it was like last week it was raining outside, and this is like just the perfect game that fits that, that mood. You know what I mean? What kind of games do you like to play? I was gonna say to get you in the mood, but that's a little suspect. But, that kind of like take you away from development.
So I literally play Smash Ultimate every single day, multiple times a day. That's like it's kind of like how I get like my like anger and frustration out low key. It's like going online, getting my ass beat most of the time. Yeah, I Smash, Fortnite, Rocket. And again, like just getting bodied by like these random kids.
Yeah,
it's like it feels horrible, but like it feels good to just like release it. So shout out Nintendo for that one.
Yeah, for sure. The game is super dope. Well, thank you so much for sharing She Dreams Elsewhere.
Thank you.
As Davion Gooden. How can we find you? How can we find the game?
Yeah, so me personally, I am at Davion Gooden on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And for the game itself, I'm at Studio Xavier on Twitter and Instagram. Not on TikTok yet, but soon. I've been dragging my feet on that. Do not sleep on TikTok. It's amazing. But yeah, wish this game on Steam. If you want to, it's a free country. And yeah, it's coming out eventually, one of these days, I promise.
Definitely looking forward to it, and appreciate you coming on, and congrats on everything that's been happening. It's super awesome to see you flourishing and such.
Nah, I'm trying my best. But thanks, y'all. I really appreciate this.
For sure. Yeah, shout out to Steam, and we'll definitely talk to you later, man. We'd love to have you back on.
Of course.
But yeah, you can wishlist it now. It's on the Mix Steam page, Black Voices in Gaming. Next up, we have Site Nkumbe. But first, let's have a little break. Let's jump on a little break, and we will be back in a couple minutes.
Awesome.
And we are back with Black Voices in Gaming. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Site Nkumbe on the line now. She is representing the Humble Black Game Developer Fund, also Global Game Jam. I think I butchered your last name. Can you please tell us how to? I freaking A. Every time. You know what I mean?
I told you just don't say it. It's fine.
I can't help it. You know what I mean?
It's got. Yeah, it's got a click which I'm pretty sure Americans aren't familiar with it, so a little bit that's how you say it. But don't try it at home. Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Just let it go, bro.
I am gonna let it go for sure. And I think it's awesome. I've been working with you for the past almost 6 months, right?
Since October. Oh yeah. Wait. Yeah, I guess 4 months. I don't know, but since October or before that, we got to know each other a bit before that. Yeah.
Yes,
so it's been a while.
It's been amazing. Site's also on the Black Game Developer Fund, as well as I am, and it's been such a journey working through that process. And one thing that I thought was really interesting is just your perspective being African and working with developers from the community. Can you give us a little bit about your personal history in the game development space.
Oh, okay. So my personal history in the game development space. So in 2013, this was like, I forget, I was like 19, I think, but like I was working at a space at a tech incubator, and I think tech incubators, they're popular in all sorts of places in Africa, like, but it's usually like tech and business incubator. And I was working there, and they were encouraging me to like, you know, because it was a space for innovation and stuff. So they encouraged me to like pursue any of my interests or whatever. So my bosses saw that I was interested in games, and they told me that, oh, there's this guy who made a game. And at that time, like, I'm in Zambia, and I have never heard of anyone making a video game before. Like, as in, so they told me that someone made their own video game, and he's been here before. And they're like, oh, who's that? And funny enough, like, someone from my high school told me, like, oh, my cousin made a video game once. And I was like, oh, really? And it turns out it was the same person. And when I learned that you can make your own game, like, he made a game based on his own comic, his own JRPG in Java, and he did everything in Java. He did all the drawing in Java and all that stuff. So it was like a fight. It was a fighting game, a JRPG style fighting game made based on a comic he had of a post-apocalyptic Africa. And I was just like, and he did everything by himself. Every single thing he did by himself in Java. And I was like, whoa, that's like insane. And I was like, also, I was like, that means like people can actually do it. Like, that shows that people can actually do it. Yeah. So after I learned that, I was like, I wonder how many other people there are around. So this was 2013, and I was like, I wonder if there are any other people around who have made games, or if anyone would be interested in learning how to make games. So I started exploring tools for game development. I learned about Stencil and Construct and that kind of stuff, and then I learned about Global Game Jam. So it was really there when I started seeing, like, with starting a game development community in Zambia from that, and becoming a part of a more global game development community through Global Game Jam. I was like, wow, like, people are learning how to make games by themselves using all sorts of tools. So I just stayed there, like, super interested, since I've been a gamer since I was really young. And I was just reminded recently that there was a time I made a board game when I was a kid using cardboard and stuff. It was like Monopoly, but for everyday life, and my friends came over to play it. But yeah, I forgot about that. But then I just thought, yeah, people, you know, like, I was just learning about people in different places in Africa making games. So that was 2013. I did a lot of stuff with that. And then in 2014, I came to study in South Africa. And South Africa has its own indie game scene. You know, South Africa is famous for Broforce from Free Lives. And
yeah.
So they...
Go ahead.
Sorry, I know I've been rambling a lot.
What's the difference between sort of the indie game scene there than it is here? Like, what do you think are some of the sort of differences that you can...
You mean in South Africa?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, a lot. I mean, first of all, this event right now, Black Voices in Gaming, first of all, like, most of the developers from South Africa are white men. The developers who you'll know about, like, if you Free Lives, all other popular games you hear about, most likely will be made by a white man in South Africa. So there is really, really very, I don't know if that's a similarity or a difference, but like, there is such little representation of black game. It's weird. No, it's really weird, because like, white people are the minority in South Africa, like, by far the minority in South Africa. So
let me just put an emphasis on it, by far. And then
yes, I need to emphasize, by far the minority in South Africa. So it's very strange. It's very noticeable. It's extremely noticeable that most of the games in South Africa are made by a small minority, and the actual people who represent the majority of the country are not shown in the game scene. So that's like a huge problem already. Wow. And I think so. like I was saying before, it'll end the conversation I was having before, but like when I came to South Africa to study, and the thing is, I had that hunger for wanting to know about game development communities, so I was reaching out to all sorts of South Africans, and they invited me to events, and like I could fit in well in those events, I guess, because if you just meet me on if a lot of people can't tell where I'm from when they hear me talk and whatnot, like I have a very neutral accent and all that, so, and I know most I have a very kind of Western sensibility in terms of like games and stuff like that. So I guess I'm approachable in that sense. Like I'm approachable in that sense. So it makes it easier for me to integrate into like different types of communities. Whereas, you know, someone who like might have a different perspective on what games they can make, or someone who might have a different perspective on the scene. I feel that, honestly. I feel that when I go to events. So,
where are you? Like, so where are you from originally?
I'm from Zambia originally. Zambia. Yeah.
And as far as sort of women of color being represented in the indie game industry in Zambia, South Africa, what do you see there?
Even worse than what already, like the in terms of black represent. Gosh, it's so little, like so few indie game developers or even just people working in the games industry are African women, and it's there. Like I'm still trying to find answers to it. Like it's something which I've been trying to find answers for since 2015, because since 2015, like hosting game development events in Zambia, I started hosting an all-girls game development workshop since like 2015 to get more women involved in Global Game Jam. And the thing is, that event was like pretty successful, and it was really nice getting to know the women. And interestingly enough, the women who I see almost every day, I guess, and I didn't even know that they were like so interested in games and even had an interest in game development. So there's like there are a lot of people who have a silent desire to get into game development. But, you know, the thing is, there's still a lot of this basic perspective, these basic opinions about, oh, you're a girl and you play games. Like, you know, there's that kind of stuff which, makes people uncomfortable to even like be like visible women who are gamers. So much like even in terms of I guess it's changed for women in coding and tech and stuff, but like it's still an uncomfortable space to be in. And that's what I've been getting all these years. That's the one thing which I'm very sure of, that it's still an uncomfortable space for women in Africa to be in. Like even not just from their peers, but even I guess, you know, from family members and stuff like that.
You mean being gamers?
Being gamers, yes. Being gamers and also being game developers. Like that's even worse. So like being gamers is already one thing, and then being interested in actually pursuing game development is another thing. It's just like it's just something else.
What makes you different? Because you're obviously in the gaming community, and obviously this is something that you love to do, but you don't seem to let whatever those cultural or, you know, societal reflections of you.
I don't know. I guess I'm used to being an outsider for a while. I've been used to being an outsider. When I was in primary school, I'm just used to being an outsider, I guess. So it didn't even bother me. And the thing is, it's like one of the only few joys I get in my life is from video games. So, like, you know, I'm not going to suppress that. Like, what else am I going to do? Like, what else am I going to talk about? Like, or what else can I be passionate about if it's not video games and stuff like that? So I don't feel the need to hide it. I don't want to hide it because I like it. I like the space that I'm in. Also maybe it's also because like I grew up like with my brothers and cousins. I have 3 brothers, and I mean, from the youngest time, like we're all really good at Tekken in our family, or we were all really good at Tekken. It's been years.
We gotta play some Tekken. I know we've talked.
Yeah,
we
gotta play
some before. I'm a Tekken head for sure. You know, I think. But let's jump into the Black Game Developer Fund. I really want to talk to you about that because, and you could jump into obviously, but you actually are representing a continent. Like, you know what I mean? You're representing Africa there, and you're seeing everything that's going on. You know, I'm helping to represent Europe and the U.S. And what is your experience been with that? Because obviously it evolved from the beginning until now.
So it's my experience with that has been, it's, you know, people are still like really want to make mobile games in Africa, so it's so hard finding people who are making PC games through the Black Game Developer Fund. So it's just it's a challenge. But the thing is, I think you know, my experience is that you know games like Arma. So I think Arma and Orion, which isn't part of BGDF, but it's also a Cameroonian game. I think seeing success stories like that might motivate people more to invest in PC games and creating their own IP through that. So that's the challenge I've had. The challenge I've had is that most people want to make mobile games, like because they know they're like, you know, they're like, it's easy to, as a business model, you can just say, oh, most Africans mostly are on mobile and all that stuff. But I do think we need more people making PC games because it's not just about the game; it's about the intellectual property as well. Like, yeah, and exporting it.
And you think the focus is because of the economics around the mobile gaming and because they're investing in PC gaming?
Yeah, because I mean, it's easy. Yeah, it's easier to just prove it as a business model, or it's just easier to sell that to people. Just say so many Africans are on their mobiles. Like every African uses a smartphone. Blah blah blah. We can get so many players into this. That's how it's easier to sell it like that. But like, selling console games, because people don't even really track console sales in Africa. I don't think so. I don't think people track console game sales in Africa, but it's easier to see like analytics for like app sales and all that stuff. So yeah,
there is definitely no visibility there. So we as we watched this evolve, what were some of the things that you saw trending? Let's just get real about this. So we started working with Humble. We saw these developers come in, these Black game developers from all over the world, and we were like, okay, initially it was like, okay, this was a publishing scenario, and then it was like, oh, well, these developers need a lot of help. You know what I mean? Outside of that. So can you explain a little bit about how it progressed?
Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. And the thing is, I was actually really surprised because, you know, the thing is, this is my first experience working with a publisher, but you know, with my, I guess, like background experience, you know, working at a tech incubator and all this stuff, and writing grants and all that stuff, and learning project management. So I thought that as a junior, I was going to be, I thought like seeing people's stuff for the first time, I thought I was going to be seeing a lot of people like just selling themselves really well. But then I learned that, you know, that people actually, a lot of people didn't know how to sell their games. Like they didn't know how to pitch their games. And I was actually very surprised about that. And then I realized, we came to realization that, you know, okay, people need help with also being able to pitch their games. And like even when people pitch their games, you could tell like people were underselling themselves a lot. Yes. So then I'm like look, exactly. And the thing is, like, I'm from Africa. We learn to do things like on such a small budget. So and I have like basically no income, very little income. And I was like, if I can tell you that you're underselling your game, you're really underselling it. Like, So I was surprised about that. Yeah.
I was surprised about that too. A lot of the developers, even like the developers who worked in AAA before, were having like some of those struggles of underselling it, not saying that they need $500,000, saying they were needed $200,000, being way under budget, but having this amazing game and already having these prototypes. So that's something that we definitely got to hit on.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the Black Game Developer Fund and where to find out about it and how to apply?
Haven't you already said that? You've probably said this a lot of times.
I've said it like 1,000 times, but I want to hear it from your perspective.
Oh my gosh! I just Google Humble Games Black Game Developer Fund or something, and it shows up. But I think it's go to humblegames.com/Black Game Dev Fund. But whatever the URL is going to be shared here, I just know it's like when I type it, it shows up on my autocomplete. So I don't know what the URL exactly is. But yeah, people, we're still open for submissions. There's a new submission format. If anyone is like who submitted something way back is planning on submitting something again, the submission format is different now. There's a pitch deck template that you can use, which is, I guess, part of helping people learn how to pitch their game. So you can use that to pitch your game, and look forward to seeing more submissions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sithe, for joining us. How can we find out more about you? How can we follow you and everything else?
Twitter, I guess Twitter is the own Twitter @_LadySith. So yeah, @_LadySith on Twitter. Or you can check out my website where I'm trying to document 1,000 African women and their contributions to games, which is prosarium.net.
Wait, you just breezed over that.
Yeah, you got to go back to that.
Yes, because I don't know how much time we have left. But yeah, I'm working on an initiative to document 1,000 African women and their contributions to games. Because like we talked about earlier, it's already so hard to find it. Like, it's already, so people are so uncomfortable coming out of there and saying, they made these little games or even they've worked on this. So I just wanted people to feel more legitimate about that. And off the top of my head, I know at least 100 African women, even 200 easily, who have contributed to a game in some way. Yeah, you see, there are that many. And the thing is, they're not documented. So that's why I started this initiative. So you can check it out, prosarium.net. Like I've only documented like a few people so far because I've been a student until very recently, I finished I actually got my results today, so I'm done. I passed everything. Great. So now I can focus more on these interviews because there are so many women out there who I want people to hear more about. So many African women who have contributed to games in various ways that I want people to hear about. So yeah,
definitely please share that on your Twitter so we can all retweet that, because I think it's important that people know that women of color are in this industry, and we want more women of color in this industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Specifically.
Thank you so much, Sithe. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, and definitely follow her for sure.
Thank you.
All right, that was dope. It's so crazy to hear about like the different interactions that folks have, especially in the African community, African developer community. We got Scott Anderson. He's on the line. He's from Unity. He's got a lot of depth, or he's got a lot of industry experience. He's a vet. Let's hop on and talk to Scott.
Hey, how's it going?
What is happening, man?
What, brother?
It's going all right.
Yeah, it's we were talking about this for a while. It's so awesome to have you on.
Yeah, it's been a conversation, I'm glad to be here. I guess I could start talking a little about my background, like what I do in Unity. Sure. So at Unity, I'm a graphics engineer on the Spotlight team, which actually Ray was on a little bit earlier, and Ray is my boss. So Ray's the technical director of Spotlight. He runs the whole team, actually. So, we had a little bit of a Unity representation, just kind of by happenstance today. But yeah, so I work with the Spotlight team in general works with various AAA partners to kind of highlight the engine, and a lot of it is like Unity doesn't really make games, right? There's demos and there are games like things that are made within Unity, but Unity doesn't really make games. So with Spotlight, we work with partners to help them finish games, and then we try and bring those features back to Unity so everyone can use them. So yeah, it's been great. I've been there about a year. But yeah, I'm kind of here to not just talk about my experience. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. We had Advanced Warfare up, trying to shed light on what you've worked on in the past. But that's really cool. You were at Facebook before.
Yeah, so before Unity, I was at Facebook. I worked on Oculus. On Oculus Home specifically, and I worked on Facebook Horizon, and there I actually ended up building two visual scripting languages, but I kind of architected and designed and wrote a lot of the code for, if you get in the Facebook Horizon beta, for the visual scripting language there, and that was a good experience. We're going backwards a little bit, but kind of after the reason why Advanced Warfare showed up is because I worked at Sledgehammer Games when I first moved out to the Bay Area. So I worked on Advanced Warfare and Call of Duty World War II. I kind of did the shader for the threat grenade effects, which is why that video showed up. But then I got really, really into VR. So I worked at Phenomena for about a year and a half on a game called Luna. And did a lot of VR interaction stuff for that. There's kind of a creative mode where you can place things in that. And therethe's the Luna trailer. And after Luna, I think we had a couple people bring up, I think it was Tony earlier brought up, having kids. You think about finance a little bit more, and it's like, oh, well, being an indie game developer is great, but in the Bay Area, if you kind of want to make a little bit more, you have to go into tech. So, and I think that was a good opportunity to bridge into tech because the Oculus acquisition had happened pretty recently, and a lot of tech companies are looking to bring in people in VR, right? And that's died off a little bit, but VR is still growing. It's still Quest 2 came out recently. It's doing phenomenal.
I just got my Quest 2, so so trying to find dope stuff to play around with in there.
Yes, so kind of as we know, VR didn't necessarily blow up to smartphone levels in 2 years or something, or console levels even, but it's becoming a bigger and bigger market, and I think and then in the coming years we're going to see it being a better space for people to get into. But yeah, when I was there and I was building a lot of visual scripting tools and game creation tools and working in Unity also, I was just maybe I should just go to Unity and work on the engine and
really that's how it came about. That's
yeah for a couple of different reasons. So
I remember when you were trying to work out this problem, and maybe I'm wrong, but you were trying to figure out how to fold space so you can infinitely move in this particular room, and you were explaining how that works. Am I imagining things, or was that something that you were
No, that's definitely I didn't actually work on that too much. There's a thing called redirected walking, right? Mm-hmm. Where, and some games actually use it. There are some shipping VR games out there that use it. The problem is you need a little bit larger space than a lot of people actually ended up playing VR in. So, and off the top of my head, I can't think of the games that actually shipped with it, but you can basically do a thing where you walk down a corner, and walk into a new room, and then the game directs you to basically walk in circles, but it feels like you're walking through a much bigger space because you're walking around corners consistently. And the bigger the space you have, the better of a feeling you can do. So like if you look at The Void, you know, like the Star Wars experience and some of the bigger location-based things that were actually doing pretty well before COVID and got kind of killed off by COVID, unfortunately. They use that trick a lot too, because they had basically kind of like, garage size space or whatever, shuffle a couple players through that space, or a paintball arena size space, shuffle a couple players through that space, but they wanted to feel like a much bigger space. So they would gate you with doors and stuff and have you turn corners and walk kind of in these circles, but it felt like you were walking through a larger level. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. Yeah.
Where do you see, like, where do you want to see games go now? As far as like the stuff that you're involved in at Unity, what's the, sort of the next level of like development that you want to see happen?
It's a good question. I mean, I think like what I want to see in general is I want to see the accessibility of game development increase even more, right? And like, you know, we've talked a lot about different game engines, you know, here, that how like people can make games part-time as hobbyists, right? And they can be like very extremely impressive, you know, fully featured, funded commercial games, right? Like, so we talked about Unity, we talked about Unreal, we talked about RPG Maker, we talked about all these accessible tools, and there's new stuff that's come out recently like Dreams, and let's push it even further, right? But I think we can go even further than that, right? Like a lot of the level of accessibility, like you can't, like it's hard to, as a hobbyist that's, you know, a skilled artist, to just sit down and build a game still, right? Yeah. It's a lot easier than it was back in the day. Definitely back when I started, definitely back when Tony or Ray started, right? But like,
yeah.
You know, you can imagine, you can extrapolate that out like, 10, 15 years in the future, where you have AI that can build stuff for you, or you have like massive asset libraries where, you can still make something that looks great without being able to touch the art, right? Like everyone kind of brought up, like there are a lot of people who have a wide variety of skills in design and programming and art, but they always have like a weak spot, right? Like, oh, I can't do animation. I'm not really good at art. Like, I don't like to do level design. So it's like, oh, when I do a prototype or something, it's like I push myself toward games that don't do level design. But it's like, oh, well, if you have tools that can assist you with that, right? Like, and obviously there are other ways to do that, right? Like there's a reason why games are made in teams for the most part. Like, almost every commercial game, especially a successful one, is made in a team. But even then, like your team might have gaps, or your team might have things that like you need help with, right? So like I think increasing the accessibility, like reducing the complexity of programming, even like in Unity, I'm working on DOTS a lot, which is data-oriented tech stack, right? And it doesn't necessarily improve accessibility and the access of like making it easier to script games for people, but I think it improves accessibility greatly in the sense of like it makes it a lot easier for people to make very high performance games that have programming experience in a way that would be very hard or impossible before, right? So yeah, I mean, I think increasing accessibility, and that's happening through game engines right now. It'll happen through, kind of like games like Roblox and like, kind of these online metaverse type things like Facebook Horizon, right? So like we're going to see it, but modding community type stuff, but more accessible than traditional modding, right? Like, yeah, for sure. So yeah, I really like to see a platform where just like anyone who felt like they wanted to make a game, like regardless of skill level, can do it. And, there are things where you can do that now, right? Like anyone could probably get Twine and make a game in Twine, right? Anyone could probably make a level in Mario Maker.
That's
but
true.
Like, I want to see like both the ease of use and the depth of titles being able to build with those type of things, right? So yeah, that's kind of what I'm excited about.
What kind of challenges, or have you had any challenges as a Black engineer or developer have you faced? I got to throw that in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like I think, and we went back to like me being at like Sledgehammer Games and being at Oculus and being at these different places, right? And Unity and Phenomena. But like before that, I started a studio called Enemy Airship for a title called Shadow Physics, right? And Shadow Physics never shipped, but it was like one of the first indie funded titles. Like, I was I think the only black person with on-screen time at all in Indie Game the Movie, right? Like the special edition had
yes,
like,
that's
developer
right. I
interviews,
remember.
right? And I think I was the only one. And like there was a lot of like where that was filmed at TIG Jam, and there was just a lot of things going on that were like problematic, to say the least, right? Like, and just being in that space and being one of the few, like, I think myself and like Tyreek Plummer back in those days were some of the few people at like TIG Jam and stuff. And I know you've been in any space really early on, but like, especially early days. Now I think there's a lot more people and it's a lot more mixed or comfortable of a space, but especially early days, like it was kind of a trap, like in a lot of ways where like
I had
everyone is like
it was like a magnetism when you saw someone who was black, just so you could relate. I remember at bar, I think I called you Tyreek at one point, and I felt like a racist for some reason.
Things like that would happen. I was called like token, like straight up by people. Like I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff like that. Like I don't want to get into it too much.
We don't need to.
But like I think that was one of the challenges, right? Like definitely funding was a challenge, right? Where I co-founded Enemy Airship with a white co-founder, right? And like it's interesting because the game was his idea, but it was entirely my implementation. Like I started it, I wrote the initial prototype by myself, right? And then I brought him on board because like I said, I don't like to do level design. So I was like, oh yeah, you're a designer, can you do level design? And it was like, cool. And we kind of worked that way, right? And I think it was Tony who said like earlier who said like design was kind of or ideas, not design. Ideas were like a dime a dozen, right? So like, yeah, the idea is cool, but a lot of people had that idea, right? And like, there have been a lot of shadow games. There are a lot of shadow games still coming out. Like Shady Part of Me just ships. There's a game called In My Shadow that is like, I feel like kind of captures that shadow physics spirit in a lot of ways, in the way it works. So, and there were ones before like Contrast came out, like, before, like, around the same time Shadow Physics was being made, it was being made. So, it was challenging because like having, and you hear about this in like VC and tech and stuff like that, right? But like for me, it wasn't just like race in this case. It was like also me being like more junior to the industry back in the day, back in those days, right? This was like 12 years ago at this point. But yeah, it was challenging having like, being in situations where, you're getting funded and like you're a co-founder, but you're not necessarily, you don't fully have a seat at the table. You're kind of halfway in the room, right? So like that was definitely a challenge.
So in this scenario, you built the game, most of the game.
Yeah.
Brought in a co-founder to help you, with level design and some like VC pitch stuff, but you weren't allowed to sort of have a say in the direction of where it was.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. I mean, I did have a say. I shouldn't say I had no say. That's not true at all. But like, there were definitely strange
dynamics.
Power dynamics and stuff there.
Yeah, there's like I totally get it. There's like some undercurrent stuff. It's not always blatant. Like I'll just be honest too. Even with the mix, there'll be certain times where I'll be in a meeting and because I look like a young dude, I'm like pushing 40, but they will not look at me. They will look at the other person in the room and I won't even, and I'm like, yo, this is actually my fucking decision. You know what I mean? So you should actually pay attention to what I'm saying too. And so I get defensive in that standpoint. And sometimes it's nothing wrong, but it's just because I've had that built up, those scenarios build up so much that everything I start taking defensively. You know what I mean? And that's just because of a reoccurring theme that happens.
And it's a challenge, and you hear about it a lot. But I feel like that's one of the more challenging things. It's happened to me in workplaces as well, right? So it's not just like regarding funding or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge. And also, like you mentioned, like young looking, right, and like pushing 40. I think we're like both in the same boat, or like a lot of people think I'm younger than I am.
I'm not senior.
Right?
I've been here for 15 years. You know what I'm saying? Like you were saying, I really appreciate that too. You were saying like I was in the.
So you just need to like whiten the hair on your face.
Yeah, I need to whiten the hair on my face and just like put my face in the sun for no reason. And get wrinkled up real quick, but.
So what advice you give sort of new developers entering this industry? I mean, obviously, we're focusing on Black developers trying to get into this industry. So like, what would you sort of things that you ran into or like stumbling blocks for you? You would say, all right, this is the things you need to do in order to like make it, in order to like really get a foothold in this industry.
I mean, it's like obviously your skills and your knowledge need to be like both. You need to be able to demonstrate them to people, right? So like, obviously I'm primarily an engineer, right? So I'm going to come and say like, you just need to have like decent computer science fundamentals. Depending on what your specialty and what your area is, you need to like know some of that regarding gaming, right? Like I think now there's probably a much better path to just be kind of like, if you're a good programmer, to just be like a good generalist gameplay programmer and not really go super deep in graphics or animation or anything like that. But like, it helps to be deep in at least one field and like, know how like DirectX or OpenGL or some like low level GPU engine, assuming graphics actually works, right? Know how to build a physically based renderer from a basic standpoint, right? Just have those fundamentals down, right? But kind of after that, right? After I can demonstrate my skills, which means building portfolio piece if you're an artist, building a small game. Honestly, I'd recommend everyone to build a small game, especially nowadays. Like, just do it. Like, do it with a small team, do it by yourself, doesn't matter. Just do it, right? Because if you want to get in games, like, just make games. Like, find a way to do it.
Yeah, that seemed to be
in your free time or as a hobbyist. Yeah. But, like, if you want to get a job in the industry, a lot of time you need to go beyond that and demonstrate, like, you're a decent specialist and can fit into a role that they have on their website or whatever. But like, beyond being able to demonstrate your skills, networking is extremely important, because if no one knows you in this industry, and other people have brought up like it's kind of insular, right? And it's like, but at the same time, people are looking for people Black right now. So if you're Black specifically, right, like, and you can demonstrate, like, reach out to myself, reach out to Justin, reach out to Ray, reach out to the people you see, right? And like, I believe people will be helpful. I try and help it. I try and help, anyone. And it's not like I just want to help like Black people or anyone, right? Like I try, or marginalized people or underrepresented people. I try and help anyone that will reach out to me and, seems, that they have something to offer. Because you never know where people are going to be and where people want to go, right? But yeah, definitely reach out, go to events if you can, especially during COVID. Like, a lot of events are online, so you don't, like, before there was a barrier to travel, there was a barrier, you going to GDC was expensive for people, they couldn't get there, right? Like, but now, like, a lot of events are very cheap, like $5 or $10 or just free to go to, right? And you can network, you can get on a Zoom and talk to people, and like everyone's in the room, right? Like, so, I just recommend, like, network as much as you can. Like, if you're of the right age, like if you're high school or college age, like, I'd recommend getting involved with Game Heads or a program like that, because then that's automatic access to industry mentors, right? And like, absolutely, people at the top level of the industry, like, have been doing it for a long time, right? Like, so, and it's not just that they're gonna, and I'm a Game Heads mentor myself, so I should say we, but it's not that we're just gonna, kind of guide you, like, around how to make games and stuff, but people are actually gonna, like, when they know you, they can think about, I have this internship or I have this junior role that's opened up. who do I know that I want to reach out to and refer? Right? Like, they're going to think about you. They're not going to think about someone that they don't know because they don't know them. Right?
Yeah,
So,
I'm just going to jump in because, like, with Alfonso's son, Joe, like, I have played his game at Gameheads, at the Gameheads showcase, and I loved it immediately. And I was like, how can I help? And then, you know, I played it more, and then I was like, how can I plug him in this place, you know, with the mix, and who do I know, like, at, you know, at Microsoft and that type of thing. And that's what we need, you know, in general. So that's some super good advice.
It's an amazing thing. I think the thing that folks don't understand is there's some statistic that like 86% of all jobs are through personal networks or that are filled across all industries. So it's like, if that means only 14% of the jobs are like available for you to directly apply.
Yeah.
So everything else is based on a network. And if you are a marginalized community, you don't have access to that larger network. So we have to actually purposely connect with one another in this industry in order to support one another. So
yeah,
for sure.
That's definitely true in the game industry. So you know, I don't know the exact statistics or anything game industry specific, but I can tell you from like anecdotally from experience that like it's much easier to get a job if you know somebody than it is if you just go blind. Like, I think, you know, I've applied to a lot of jobs, and I think there have been maybe 1 or 2 jobs where I even got a call back where I just did a blind apply on the website, like, period. And there was one where I got an offer where I did a blind apply. And that's when I had like industry experience. And I just like did a blind apply on LinkedIn, and they happened to interview me and give me an offer. But every other job except like really early, like my first job, which was worked on a Stargate MMO, my first industry job, not my first game, because I like early on in college and like out of college, I did indie games part-time, and I shipped a couple games. So that's kind of that portfolio piece, right? I worked on Stargate Worlds back in the day, which actually like a decent amount of people played because they went into alpha, you know, open alpha, right? So they're like 2,000 players or something, right? And like, you know, I worked on did like animation and abilities kind of programming stuff for the most part, you know, so a little bit of graphic stuff and some other random things, but yeah, you know, it didn't ship. Like I've yet to ship an MMO, and I've worked on 2 of them. But
wait, what was the other one?
I worked on 38 Studios project Copernicus, which is like the Kingdoms of Amalur MMO that like burned up in flames because of Rhode Island government and like Kurt Schilling and like all that political maneuvering stuff. But yeah, I worked on that also, and that didn't ship.
How long did you work on it?
I wasn't even there a year before it shut down.
Cool.
So
I know that happens a lot. Dude, we appreciate you so much joining us, Scott. And where can we find out more about you and what you got going on?
Yeah, it's probably best to follow me on Twitter. This is my Twitter handles there. It's at Impossible Scott. Yeah, usually I'll keep abreast. Like if you want to look up, you know, Scott Anderson on LinkedIn or something, follow me on LinkedIn. That's also works for more professional connections, but I think Twitter is probably the best right now.
Yeah, definitely hit up Scott. He's got a wealth of information, vet in the industry. If you ever need to try to connect build your network, you know, now I'm blasting you out. All these people are going to hit you up. You know what I mean? But
whatever. I want to get my follower count up, so that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Cool. All right, talk to you later. Okay, up next we got Charles McGregor with Hyperdot. Check out the trailer. and that was the trailer for Hyperdot. I was playing it last night on Xbox Game Pass. The game is super fun. Alfonso will be driving. We have Charles McGregor on the line. What's up, Charles?
Hey, how's it going?
Great. I love your setup as always. I mentioned that before last time I saw it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I realize that it's a little bit on the overkill side, but I just really like production and producing and stuff. So
yeah,
I'm into this kind of things. But yeah.
I was playing Hyperdot. I've played it before. I was having it's just so elegant. It's a gorgeous game. It's freaking amazing. I know I'm blowing you up right now.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's like one of the most elegant games I've played in a while, and just figuring out the patterns and that type of thing. Can you first give an introduction to yourself and your rich history in the game industry.
Sure. So yeah, I guess I'm Charles McGregor. I am the founder of Tribe Games, which is a company based out here in Minnesota. I am actually the sole person in Tribe Games. So I've been making video games since I was around 8 years old. I have been doing it more in a professional light since 5 years ago. But yeah.
So you at any time you're working on multiple projects, huh?
Oh yeah, I'm working on way too many projects at the same time. Currently I'm working on Hyperdot. I got some cool stuff in store for people, and then I'm also working on Totally Reliable Delivery Service, which is also a local company based in Minnesota. We're 5 Games, and so I've been doing that. If you played the Halloween update to that, I was the ghost. I'm also sorry for the ghost. Everybody loved the ghost. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah.
That's dope. Tell us about Hyperdot. Like, how did you get that started? And can you tell us a little bit about the background?
Sure. So with Hyperdot, it originally started out as a presentation in a class that had nothing to do with video games. They said no PowerPoint, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll make a game instead. It originally was just it was about anti-piracy techniques in video games. So things like DRM and or like other techniques that you can do. So like there's like Nintendo infamously made a pirated version of Earthbound, and then put that out on the market so that whenever somebody picked it up, they get that special version that like was extremely hard. And then when you got to if you for some way got to the very end of that game, it would freeze right at the end of the as soon as you do the final blow, and then wipe your save. So there was a lot of fun things that people had. There's also been other examples of anti-piracy techniques of like just being like, hey, like hanging out in a spot where people might be getting like some type of like malicious downloading things and like showing up. I believe it was Hotline Miami did this, where they were just like, hey, please don't just randomly download things. Just ask me for a key. I'll just give you a key. I don't want you to have like a negative experience associated with Hotline Miami and stuff. So there's tons of techniques about that. And while I've said all of this, this is clearly related to Hyperdot. So originally it was just you were the dot was the game, and then all the enemies that show up are the pirates, and then you're supposed to there was a normal mode where you had piracy protection, so it was not as hard, and then there was hard mode where you didn't, so then everything showed up right away and you would like almost instantaneously lose, but it would be way harder to survive. Again, totally reaching. That class had nothing to do with video games.
That is so interesting for sure. I didn't even catch that like metaphor there at all. Obviously, while playing games, so that's such a cool background.
yeah. That really just, as soon as that class was over, it was like I had 4 days to finish it. As soon as it was over, I showed it at a local event, and then people encouraged me to, hey, you should continue working on this. And I also really enjoyed working on it. Like I was finding myself playing the game. I was like, oh, I need to test something, and then 15 minutes later, I was like, oh wait, I was supposed to test something. So there was a lot of that. But I was encouraged to work on it, and the second I said, yeah, I'm going to work on this more, I just totally ditched the anti-piracy Origins. Although for like 2.5 years, it was called that because I couldn't come up with a good name idea.
It was called anti-piracy?
It was called anti-piracy. So if you see tweets from me from 3 or 4 years ago, good. I might be referring to it as anti-piracy.
That is so dope. Yeah, it has that feel. Like when I was playing it before, and last night I just got because we did our other stream yesterday, and I just wanted to relax and chill. I'm like, should I boot it up on my PC or should I just lay on my bed like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like a little kid and just like play it. And then I had to sit up. I was like, I gotta pay attention to this. Hold on
1 sec.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But it's interesting, like the different mechanics. Like you have the one, I don't remember all the names, but there's the one, like this one right here, where it just feels like traffic, you know, and you're trying to get through it. That's how I felt. It's like,
you're in Bermuda.
Like you're in, or you're like in Tokyo and you're walking down the streets in Shibuya and you don't want to bump into anyone, or New York or something, you get punched in the face.
This is actually one of my favorite modes of dark mode, where you can't see everything around you. I guess I never actually did the spiel. I guess I can do the spiel real quick.
Yes, please.
Hyperdot is a action arcade game where you dodge everything. You play as a dot and you have to avoid all of the different shapes that show up. So and there's these things called modifiers, which change the way the game's played. Like this is dark mode where you can't see everything. We got changing the player size, changing the arena size, or you can also change the mode. So there are some modes where you want to collect things and not just dodge stuff. Oh geez, man, yeah, this is. Also, the game is a little challenging, just a slightly bit.
You can do this, Alfonso. I have faith in you.
Oh yeah, you got this.
This one's effing me. Just gotta not move so fast. That's my.
So there's over 100 levels, right?
Yes. There's over 100 levels in the game. I mistakenly, when I first started the game, after I did the 4-day of doing a prototype, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make 100 levels, no problem. And I thought I would be done in 1 summer. Like, yeah, I got this. It took me 4 years. So
wow, okay.
So yeah, it wasn't as easy as I thought. But that's what scope creep can do. But I'm super proud of all of the. Hey, you got this. I'm super proud of all of the different levels and mechanics and the ways that I manipulate the small set of things in the game. And like that's really what the like essence of the game is like. I had 2 core principles of like minimalism and flexibility, and the minimalism was like I just want to have it so that the only thing you do in this game is move, and then how can I like mess around with that. So yeah, that was a lot of fun trying to explore and figure out all that stuff. It just took me a little longer.
Yeah, it feels like I love it because it reminds me of bullet hell shooters. The dodging involved with like Ikaruga or ray gun, like R-type, that type of thing, and I love that maneuverability. There was one in particular where I had to just keep rotating my little dude. Oh, it was the ice one. There's an ice one.
Oh yes, yeah.
And you have this little circle you have to stay in. So I was just like, I found this little technique where I had to go in circles to dodge everything around the other circle, and it just like the creativity that you have to use in order to beat the levels is cool,
Yeah, no, and that's also one of the things I find like a ton of different inspiration from a ton of different places, and like Ikaruga style games or like R-type and stuff. Totally inspiration. A lot of inspiration from like Super Hexagon and Geometry Wars, and also like the visual style and also like the level, like how I set up levels and things of like N++. Those kind of things. adore that kind of style. So I wanted to try my hand at it.
I like the level creation that you have that as a part of it. Like people can build their own levels. That's really
yeah. That actually was when I mistakenly said, yeah, this will only take one summer. I was like, I had no plans on having a level editor. But after making the first level by hand, where I had to like put in each value, be like, all right, press the button, and be like, ooh, is this working? And whatnot. That kind of, or like, and then waiting and loading and whatnot. That kind of back and forth it was not super fast. So I was like, oh, I should probably make an editor.
This one's tough for sure.
Oh, man.
There's different feels to every level, and like some I'm not good at, but I've seen that you're better at some of the ones that I'm not good at.
Also, thanks, hey D-Mark in the chat, bobbing ahead to the music. Yeah, I'm super proud of the music, in particular this song. But yeah.
So did you also compose the music? Like, I know this is your game, so you did pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, so I did all the art, music, programming, design, and stuff. For the longest time, there was only one song in the game, and that wasn't until like maybe the last 6 months of development where there was a second song that actually showed up. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the presentation is super clean and seamless. That's one thing that I feel. So you like catch that vibe. If you want to stay in this kind of world, you know what I mean? You're just like,
oh yeah,
just continuously doing that, and that's like,
yeah, I definitely didn't want to have it so that it was like super abrasive and like in your face, because this game's already is a slight bit stressful if you're trying to survive.
I'm not stressed.
And the thing that you got that's really good, it's like, and I know it's not mobile game-esque, but it has that kind of feel, is the bar. Because you're like, it's like a 4 out of 6. I just got 2 more.
I was so close. Yeah,
like,
that was fun trying to find that.
What? What'd you say?
That's really fun trying to find that balance of like, oh, I'm just so close being able to get that. That's where you get that super satisfying, like, yes, I finally did it.
Yeah. Last night I had to tell myself, like, yo, I am not, one more. You know what I mean? One more. No, for real though. Like,
yeah, this is actually the one. That one didn't count. I only lasted like 5 seconds. Let's get a real true one in. Yeah, I know that feeling.
That's really cool. So now you're working on some other games. What are some of your other previous indie titles that you worked on?
Sure. Created? So my very first fully released game is called Glitch in the System. It was very much inspired in a Geometry Wars thing, kind of also in similar time constraints where I only had 2 days to make the original prototype. But so that is unfortunately not actually available, but wink wink, maybe it will be soon on other platforms. It might be
that's
somewhere, wink
awesome.
wink. But yeah, so that was my first fully released game, and that's really where things
come on
took a change in my
feeling it.
This is great.
Can I rage quit?
No, you cannot rage quit on this mug.
No,
how about this? You ask questions.
There you go.
Watch, I'm gonna die. I'm over there.
Oh yeah. So you're good.
It was slide.
Oh, this is the sliding one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
This one's rough. I was fronting I'm, you know what I mean? I can make this happen, but maybe I can't.
All right.
You got this.
Let's
see my little jiggle technique. You see that?
There you go.
See the little jiggle? You gotta do the little. Oh, schnooks.
Oh,
you see that?
You good? See, look at that. No problem.
I got skills. Let's look at that. All right. Well, mad props.
Yeah, that one is pretty tough. And that, to be honest, that thumbstick, I'm gonna give you up on that one because that one's a little shady, dude. You got set up on that.
You give me booty equipment. You set me up on live stream, homie.
You got set up on that one with that thumbstick, dude. We gotta go with first party next time. Extra shady.
Give him the third party controller. That's been used a little too much.
It had a little click in it. You can't. You know what I mean? For regular games, you could. This one has I don't know. There's some dirt in the. You can't do that with your game. It's not popping off like that.
But yeah, actually, that speaking of controllers, that segue is the game's actually supports a wide variety of controllers. So if you get it on like Steam or something, you can actually play using eye tracking, the Tobii eye tracker.
Wait,
which is it's
dope.
Like I was one of my friends was joking like, oh man, you should get HyperDot to work with Tobii eye tracker, and I was like, that's funny, yeah, that'd be really interesting. And then like after we laughed for like 2 minutes or something, I was like, maybe I should try that. And then actually I was like 3 hours later, super huge credit to like the Tobii eye tracking API and stuff, I was able to get eye tracking in the game, and then had a bunch of people test it, and it was
awesome.
Oh yeah, it's a really cool experience to go through, and it was at that point where I was like, oh yeah, this will be a.
He's like avoiding the bubble, dude. Like,
so good.
I'm clowning you this time, bro. Stay in the bubble, dude. It says stay. Just kidding.
But that was something where I shifted. Where I thought that would be like, this would be a novel thing, because that's where it started out from. But then I thought of like, what if you don't have, if you have like a motor disability, or you can't like hold a traditional controller, you could theoretically play HyperDot using just your eyes. And actually, I was able to witness somebody play through every single level inside a HyperDot from start to finish using just the Tobii eye tracker, and it's just like one of the most like heartwarming. I can't believe that
is freaking amazing.
Possible.
Yeah. What other interesting controls did you adapt for the game?
Sure. So there's the Microsoft Adaptive Controller. While, of course, the Adaptive Controller works with basically with every game, I did put in some stuff like with that in mind to make sure that like, this is designed with it in mind and stuff. So like you can plug in. We used a foot controller at a convention once, where we had like you can play HyperDot just using your feet, which was a lot like super cool. And you can also there were like sometimes where we could bring up the foot controller, and then you can like lean on it and use your arms and lean back and
I know
forth.
What you're talking about, like the tilt thing.
Yeah, the tilt thing. The 3D rudder foot controller. That thing.
That's. Did you get an advanced copy of like the what is it called, the heartbeat monitor?
Oh no,
man! Came out.
Don't give me that idea. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that like I'm with be like, and then you just avoid all the things.
Having heart attacks on HyperDot.
Oh
dude,
no!
Like,
hyperventilating.
Yeah, it's just called you change the name.
Just hyper.
Hyper. Yeah,
hyperthyroidism. Like what? We're already having enough issues as it is.
This game has killed 7 people. Like,
but yeah, so like that is one. If I wanted, like, I'm interested in like supporting a lot of even, I guess, not necessarily like mainstream controller stuff, or like alternate controller and things. So like like the Microsoft Adaptive Controller, Tobii eye tracker is one. I wanted to make it so that like, I'm playing on Steam, and if I plug in my PS4 controller, I want to have it work and show the PS4 controls. I was like, no problem. Oh, I'm on a Switch. I'll use the Joy-Con stuff. Like I want to have it so that the game meets you where you're at, rather than you having to be like, oh man, I have to plug or use Joy to key. And stuff like that.
I'm gonna have to try it on a fight stick. I think that'd be really
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that, like, arcade kind of feel. Have you ever tried to have it in a cabinet? That would be kind of sick.
So my publisher Glitch, before we were actually like, we partnered and did a publisher developer thing, we actually had Glitch had like these things called arcade backpacks, where we were able to put in a laptop on a backpack, and then we had like an arcade stick and stuff, and then we would rock around like conventions and things, and then people would be able to play HyperDot or Anti-Piracy at the time, and they were able to play using like the arcade things. Then we were like, hey, you want to play our game? And then we just like walk up and be like, oh yeah, here you go, and then they would be able to sit there and try dodging dodging all the things on the back of somebody being like, "Yeah, way to go!"
Did you
like that.
did
It was
you
a lot
have
of
that at E3 at IndieCade?
We didn't have it at E3, but we, I forget where we had it. It was one of the early versions of anti-piracy. So that's largely why. But it's like I really do enjoy like exploring a lot of that kind of space and things like that. But yeah.
I have a broken TV with this game, just letting you know right now. But
You're in this one. You did one of these before, stay in the circle scenarios.
I'm trying to use your trick.
You're on a glide one. Okay, yeah, this is, you gotta, that stick is terrible. You really have to compensate for that stick, dude. Like,
this level in particular is pretty tough.
And that would be super hard to use the D-pad. Yeah, that ain't working.
Oh my god.
It's definitely not.
You can also,
terrible.
You can also try using the right stick. That also works. To move around.
That actually, you put your left hand on the right stick. That may help you. But so you said you have, or am I mistaken? You have an update for this game.
Yes. So I've been working on the biggest update that I've put out. So before I put out Gauntlet Mode, which is basically the single player campaign, but you have a limited set of lives. So you can have either 100, 50, 10, or 1 life, and you're trying to see how far you can get into the game. And that was the biggest update then. And now I'm working on an even bigger update that I'm not ready to devolve all the information, but you can expect a lot more stuff that you'd be able to play and mess around in. But yeah, it's taken me a little bit longer because unfortunately the pandemic has happened and it's harder to get people to be able to test and get proper testing and things like that, because I don't want to have it so that like the game is or the new stuff is unbalanced and things like that. But hopefully soon TM to be out there.
Yeah. So like, I'm just curious too, on Totally Reliable Delivery Service, what role do you play on that team?
Sure. So I'm, I guess I consider myself more of like a generalist, which would make sense because I like to do a lot of different things. But on that team, we're working on the Steam release. So we're working on doing largely doing like a overhaul on a lot of different things and features. I'm doing a lot of the UI stuff. So when you see the final product, all the cool animations and UI things and a lot of that stuff, that would be me that's working on that stuff.
That's dope. And the Minnesota area, I was talking with Ty and Nate in the Minnesota area. I was talking with Zach from Space Mace. Like, it's such a rich community in Minnesota. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I don't think people know that that's on the map. Dope game development studios for sure.
Yeah, so speaking of Zach from Space Mace, I actually work with Zach from Space Mace on Totally Reliable Delivery Service. We both are working on it. It's been awesome. But the Minnesota scene, it definitely, like, especially within like the last 5 years, it went from a lot of small indie developers, like not necessarily centralized, but like being like, oh yeah, I hope one day that I'll be able to finally finish this game and put it out on itch, to like to
he's getting angry. You hear him getting angry real quick.
You can hear him, yeah. But it went from that to like, oh yeah, we're trying to get this thing out on like Steam, PS4, Xbox, and yeah, we're working trying to get these deals. And it's like it's like so heartwarming and amazing to see that this community has grown and matured enough to be able to even like consider those ideas, because that was definitely not on like the radar for a lot of people. We were just trying to finish a product.
Sure.
But yeah, it's been awesome, and the community is great. Being able to work together and hang out. Well, in pre-pandemic times, being able to hang out and like play test and going to conventions and stuff is super great. And a lot of indie teams working out here. And then we also have a couple of medium-sized companies out here as well.
The the new Battletoads game, is that there too? That team? I can't remember what they're called.
I don't know. Oh man, that would be great if
I know. I'm just
fine. Yeah, I was like, hey,
I'm trying to take a deep dive there. So, where can we find Hyperdot? I know it's on Xbox Game Pass. Or is it everywhere right now? I know it's on Steam too.
Yeah, so you can find Hyperdot on itch and Steam with PC, Mac, and Linux. You can find it on Xbox and Xbox Game Pass. It is Play Anywhere, so you can play it on your PC or on the Xbox One or Xbox X and S.
Yeah, give me a that janky ass controller.
There you go.
And he did it.
There you go. And then I might be working on other things. I don't know. Maybe.
You can't announce anything yet.
I can't announce anything. But,
I can't wait to see what you got going next.
Game's dope, man.
We gotta switch it to a 2-shot. After
there you go.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. You just
you got to level 18. But yeah, can you give some advice to up and coming game developers for either getting into the industry itself or starting off their own teams?
Sure. So the one that I normally say is just start working, start making a thing, start doing it, and start out super small. I think that is super useful, and it's really helpful to be able to be like, okay, I made something, and that really was when like things shifted for me. Like I mentioned, I've been making games since I was 8, but I didn't finish a game until I was in college it was my sophomore year of college. And that was like a huge shift in like how I perceived like, oh, that's what the end of a game looks like. It wasn't just like a amorphous, oh man, that just seems so hard to do. But like really like paring down and like making it super small was super helpful. But I also do want to say, because a lot of people will say that, and it's super useful advice, but it's hard to like act on it. It's like, oh yeah, we'll make a game. Well, okay, fine. So I would actually like recommend look at a classic game, like an arcade classic or something that's like something that you enjoy. Like say you really enjoyed Pac-Man or something like that, or Dig Dug. I would say look at that and then figure out, well, how do I make a Dig Dug in 2021, or like how do I make a Dig Dug with this cool like interesting twist, but like only have it be that one level, like arcade level. That way then you will have the scope is already there, you know the ending because you see what Dig Dug looks like. You can bring that over and you can be like, oh, okay, well, this is what Dig Dug looks like, and I just want to have it so that it's set in space, or it is you have it so that you have to like climb your way up rather than dig down. Mm-hmm. So like have that one like twist or something that'll help establish your style / give you like some type of interest in it, and then try and complete that. And that way you're able to actually again see, oh, this is what an ending of a game looks like completing a game looks like.
Completing a game is the big.
Yeah,
I agree.
Finish something.
I think
finishing something is so
yes,
useful.
finishing something like just from my personal experience, it's like I'm gonna make this game in 2 years, 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's only gonna take me the summer 4 years later, and then yeah.
We recently developed, because we're doing the Jay and Silent Bob games last year. In between that, the Chronic Blunt Punch game, we did the Mall Brawl Nintendo game, and within that, like within a year, we developed from start to finish and released the game, and it was just so gratifying after spending like 4 years on Chronic Blunt Punch due to like everything that happens, like getting new people for the team, or like lack of funding or whatever. Just to be able to make something small but it's still great is gratifying. So I would say like
finish
something.
Finishing,
like,
yeah.
That's another theme that it just jumps around throughout this whole showcase is makes things. Just start making things. But what you said was make something small is super key when you're starting.
Yeah, super key. Try doing that. If you're like, well, but I really want to make this huge MMO, then try like breaking down that MMO into smaller games and being like, what's wrong with trying to do a huge, massively multiplayer online game for my first game that I've ever worked on? Having it so that it's like a smaller game that's just a piece or like a piece of that MMO that you're really wanting to do. That kind of thing is super useful because you're like, oh, this is like, you're able to have a complete game, a complete product. You get to the end and then be like, oh, I've learned some things about this art style that I wanted to do, or this game mechanic, but it's all condensed inside of this small game. So that way you're able to then be like, oh yeah, I'll apply this to this future big game that I want to do. And then you work on another part of that future big game that you want to do inside of its own game. So you can, again, you get the satisfaction of being able to actually complete a game, but then also learn all the different mechanics and things, or art styles, or music, and all the different aspects of it that you want to do. Or like if you wanted to make a small game and then learn how do I do the marketing, or how do I interact with like a publisher and stuff.
Yeah.
Do those small kind of things, and then you'll be able to build up and learn how to do that.
That's amazing advice. So how can we find out more about Hyperdot and what Charles McGregor is doing? Like, how can we follow you?
Yeah.
It's your moment to shine.
My moment. So yeah, you can either follow me at Tribe Games, or me personally at DarkHazeTG on Twitter. I guess you can find me also on my website, tribe-games.com. And then I also have a SoundCloud, because people say that at the end of these things, right? I have a SoundCloud.
Those vibes, for sure.
Yes, the entire soundtrack of Hyperdot is available on Spotify and Steam and whatnot. So you can.
That's a good. That's a good shout out. I am going to find it now personally.
Yeah. Awesome.
Being selfish, but thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you more.
Amazing game.
Awesome.
Amazingly frustrating as well, but I'm awesome. It's gonna be on the console tonight. I'm gonna be playing that, and it's gonna.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yo, I am so sorry for setting you up with that sticky stick. You know what I mean?
He gave me this booty controller. I'm on the ice with a booty controller.
It's extra whack.
Got me like ice skating uphill, man. What's going on?
Yeah, that was Hyperdot, Charles McGregor. Up next, we have we talked about the Humble Games Black Game Developer Fund. We talked about Game Heads. Niantic is really making things happen with their Black Developer Initiative with their first title, Wicked Saints. So we have a trailer we're going to drop for Niantic. Shout out to them, and let's check it out.
My name is Jessica Murray. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Wicked Saints Studios, based in Medford, Oregon. But my team is all over the world, literally. We make interactive story games where people can play the hero and then actually be the hero in real life. We are going to be building World Reborn on the Niantic platform. It's like Game of Thrones meets Riverdale with a little dash of Black Mirror. My path to game design is pretty atypical. Before I was a game designer, I was actually a peace builder. I trained young activists all over the world in social change communication. We wanted to figure out a way to scale that change. How do we reach more young people and activate them in their community to handle conflict but in a constructive way? When we had this revelation that young people wanted to practice what to do first before being sent out to do stuff, we started doing interactive story games using Twine, so text-based story games. Imagine that you fall into this deep pit and you're facing a dragon. The world will tell you that you have two choices. You either slay the dragon or you get eaten by the dragon. The problem with those two choices is that neither of them get you out of that deep, dark pit. But what we're trying to do is create tools so that you don't just survive these situations, but you can fly. We want to create a society of high-functioning dragon riders. So much excites me about being able to work with Niantic and this platform. What it's done is it's really kind of exploded our box. There's so much that we can tap into with AR and geolocation that we'd never had access to before. And stories are so powerful because people's behavior changes through experiences. With interactive story games, you're no longer having this kind of vicarious experience. You are the main character. I'm so excited for Niantic's Black Developer Initiative. It's something that's going to expand universes of stories and experiences that haven't been tapped into. Especially for us, we just needed that shot. We needed someone to believe in our idea. We've always been trying to mobilize young people to actually go out into the world and move and do good. Who's got people to move better than Niantic?
And that was the Niantic Black Game Developer Initiative. I don't know, what do you thought about that?
That was dope. I really like the graphics in that game.
Yeah, it's really cool what they're doing and all of the supporters. And speaking of that, we want to give a final shout out to our sponsors, starting with Humble Games with the Humble Black Game Developer Fund. If you're interested in checking it out, check out the link below. They've been amazing sponsors and working with us. And we have a plethora of more sponsors that have worked with us over the years. Raw Fury, we couldn't have done this without them. PlayStation jumped in. Razer has helped us with hardware. Humble Games again. And of course, Kickstarter. Thank you so much for supporting us. We want to thank all the viewers, Wilmer Sounds, AV Society, of course, Gameheads. And what do you want to say?
I just want to say that if you are a developer of color, especially a black developer, please submit to the Humble Fund. Also, reach out to Justin and I if you would like to be showcased on this program. We're going to continue to do this, and there's a lot of opportunity out here for us, but we have to do it as a community.
Yeah, totally. That's what Black Voices in Gaming is about, is connecting to the community of black developers, showcasing and highlighting black developers and creators and everything. It's been a blast. We appreciate everybody. Again, my name is Justin Woodward, co-founder of the Media Indie Exchange, The Mix, and we are out of here.
All right.
Peace.